Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is Monday. It is time for revolutionary change. I'm Jen Perelman.
I'm Peter Hager, and it's good to see you, Jen.
It's good to see you too. Back at home, I see.
Yes, I am back at home, and the lighting is much better.
How was traveling over Thanksgiving weekend?
It was good. As you know, I like to travel when I can, and of course, if it's to see family and friends, it's always nice. And
Thanksgiving is just usually such a hassle to travel during Thanksgiving weekend.
Oh, it definitely is, especially getting back. But that's also the advantage of living in a part of the country where there isn't a major airport that you have to fly into, which is usually a much bigger problem. I always find that to be the bigger issue. But yeah, no matter where you go on Thanksgiving, it's going to be crowded. But again, it was worth it. I hope you had a good one as well.
It was very uneventful. We actually went to go see Running Man, which I never saw the original one. I know, whatever. I didn't even know there was an original one. I am not a Schwarzenegger.
Oh yeah, no, there was
I don't care. So that's what Grammy wanted to do, and so we went to go see Running Man on Thanksgiving. Yeah. It was okay. I mean, it was fun. It was, I feel like it was the same as the Hunger Games. It was the same. Like we're out of ideas. It's sort of like the same plot. And it's all very ominous in terms of where we're headed as empire.
I'm not expecting anything from anybody anymore, especially in Hollywood, especially if they can't make any more of their pro-Israel propaganda. That seems to be the order of the day. There is this sort of awakening, this great awakening that people are having. First of all, there's way too many streaming services. There's way too many movies. There's way too much of a lot of different things. But again, when everything is based on capitalism, it doesn't matter if the product is good or not. It just matters if the product makes money. And therein lies what I do believe to be one of the great crimes against the arts, which is film and TV and a lot of different streaming programs that are on. Yeah, I'm sure again, I don't watch anything, so you can't look at me as a reference point. But what I am confident in saying that I believe most people would agree on is there quality programming out there? Sure. Is it anywhere near the majority or the consensus that the programming that is put out there, whether on streaming services, TV, or in the movies, is of quality? No. I am sure that is a substantially small minority in terms of quality.
I think that the things that get the funding to get major releases, for the most part, for me, they suck. They suck. They're generally superhero franchises or Mission Impossible franchises. And I understand that it's exciting and it's fun. And yeah, that's great. But like really good quality, like film is hard to come by in the mainstream. Like it does exist. There's definitely good stuff. And now that's why I don't mind streaming services, because you can find some different things that would not otherwise be available. So it's better.
When you had the Dark Knight trilogy that came out in 2005 through 2012, look, I thought it was fantastic filmmaking by Christopher Nolan. But then what ends up happening is you get a whole bunch of copycats, and they're like, "Ooh, Batman! Let's do the Marvel universe. Let's do the DC universe. Let's do this. Let's do more Star Wars."
Yep. That's where the money is, and the merchandising. That's why. And good quality filming. And there's good film festivals and there is good work, but those things don't generally get broad enough release that most people get an opportunity to even know it exists. So that's the problem.
I'm going to give April a shout out. I will say this. I have not seen the second Joker movie, and I won't, but the first Joker movie is actually really good, especially the scene with De Niro and Joaquin Phoenix. I guess what was supposed to be a version of the Steve Allen show. I would assume that that's what it was supposed to be. I don't want to get into the gory details, but let's just say that was a fever pitch scene, to say the least. But with that said, quality that you're looking for in terms of entertainment, film, things of that nature, you're really not going to find it today. You're going to find it yesteryear. And not just like a few years ago. We're talking 30, 40, 50 years ago. You know, the real quality filmmaking, that's when you're going to find it. In fact,
We had all the best bands too.
yes,
We did. We had all the best music. Got to see them live before auto-tune, before people released singles, and we had album-oriented rock where albums told a story and liner notes were by artists, and it was beautiful. Seriously. It's like it's sad to me how much of that people don't even know existed, and it was like my life would be totally nothing without art and music.
Yeah.
Seriously. That's
Yeah.
so it bothers me that we've sort of like digitalized to the point where it's not really art anymore.
Well, that's the whole point. Again, everything is, and you're talking to somebody who believes in a form of a free market system, but there is no question that whatever it is that we have, that is the result of poor art, because it's not about the quality, it's about the quantity, it's about the profit. That is the only reason why these detestable, low quality projects are constantly being churned out. It has nothing to do with whether it's what people want to see. It's what people will ultimately go to see. It's a sure bet in terms of profit. That is it. There is no other logical explanation. Not that I would accuse Hollywood of doing anything logical, but you did have an adventure, if you will, over the weekend. Speaking of creating your own form of drama.
Okay, no, this is more in the arts and crafts category is what I would
agree. I would agree.
So for people who do not know, I live in Florida, and Florida has a tendency to create license plates for everything. But usually it's things that are like, you know, your anti-choice people, your Christian right people, your anti-gay people, they all get license plates. It's interesting. So of course, the newest one that we have now in Florida is this. So for people listening, it's a Florida license plate. It has the Star of David behind a flower, which I don't know what that flower is, and it says Florida stands with Israel. So now people can get these license plates in Florida. And I'd heard about this a while ago, and I've been wanting to see one parked because I keep this roll of Palestine stickers in my car. Like it's a roll that has like all different circle Palestine stickers on it. And I said, you know, that first time I see one parked, I'm going to decorate it. And I did. And I put Palestine stickers on 2 circle stickers on their license plate. And ironically, I was able to see them when they saw it. I wasn't expecting to be there, but I was actually driving away, but I saw the people come out to their car. They were not pleased.
Now, didn't you take a picture of this?
I did, and I shared it with you. And
Okay.
I shared it with another friend, but that is not to be shared because that's these people's license plate. So I don't need to give them the evidence that that I'm the one who did anything to their license plate. You don't
So
need, and I don't need to share their license plate. No, the one I just showed is the sample one from the state, just so people could see what I'm talking about. So these people had a We Stand with Israel license plate, and I did a little arts and crafts on it.
Okay, so if you can pull up that picture again and just explain to the audience exactly what you did, you hooligan, you criminal.
Okay, so, and I don't want to give too many details because I don't need to, again, piece together the evidence that I'm the one who did this. Like, so I have Palestine stickers that are in my car on a little roll, and I stuck a Palestine flag sticker dead set in the middle of the flower. And then I stuck another sticker on it. I think it might have just said Free Palestine or something. It's a roll of multiple, like a variety pack, if you will. And so, yeah, I decorated their license plate for them.
Well, it probably made it look a lot better. Okay.
Oh,
so
they were standing there trying to peel it off. Now, I don't know if they were able to because I had just done it. So it might have been easier to peel off than like when things are sitting somewhere for a while. So I don't know.
What was their reaction? That's what I want to know.
They were looking around, like trying to figure it out, you know, and then they were like, I saw them bending over, like trying to pick at it.
So I take it didn't work out nearly as well, but were they visibly
it entertained the shit out of me. It worked perfectly.
So what were you, just like hiding in the back seat of your car?
No, I was driving away. I wasn't planning on still being there when they came out to the car. But as I was coming up the other lane, like I was already driving out of that lane. I was already up, and it's in a parking lot. I was driving up another lane and I saw people walking in that direction. And I'm like, oh my God, that'd be so funny if it was them. And so I just drove slowly as I headed out of the parking lot and watched them from afar. But it was them.
Oh, well.
Yeah, it gave me a warm, fuzzy feeling.
Well, I'll tell you what's going to give me a warm, fuzzy feeling. So Governor DeSantis has announced that they are going to move forward with redistricting in the spring. And the Florida Democratic House Minority Leader calls it illegal. No,
Really?
it isn't. No, it isn't. But it just gives away the game. And it would be a real shame if one of those people that happens to be cut out of all the fun of running this country into the ground in Debbie Wasserman Schultz, because it appears that is one of the main congressional districts that is on the chopping block. So not a tear will be shed. Not a person.
I guess they're sick of her. I guess they're done protecting her.
Well, I think that's part of it. I think that I've always maintained that there are very few people that we've ever come into our orbit who genuinely like her, who just are, oh, I love Debbie. No, it's a means to an end. I've always said that it was a means to an end. And when that, we'll just
even
say,
her quote unquote, I feel like that even from her quote unquote best friends.
Yeah.
Like I still get I don't know how much you really like her.
No, I think that, again, this is just people do not have the courage of their convictions. They're not willing to take chances or risks. For what reason, I don't know. But I think a lot of that, well, you know what it's like? It's like when I attribute it in many ways to a few years back when Wasserman Schultz had Pelosi over either her house or one of her friends' houses inside the community in Weston in which she lives. And then a whole bunch of what you would call Democratic Party sycophants ended up getting invited to the house for the fundraiser and the lunch, and it's Pelosi and the da-da-da. And all I'm thinking is, yeah, to people like that, if you want to stay in the club, if you want to have some degree of favoritism within that club and not be regarded as an outcast, you will support Debbie Wasserman Schultz no matter what. And for people like that, those little things, that matters to them. Like that's
Did you say Pelosi?
I did. Confessions of a Fallen Catholic Speaker. I don't know if the Pope would even meet with her for a confession. Probably not, But with that said, I am not going to get too caught up in the simple reasons as to why I don't like Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I always find that when people don't like somebody, it's for reasons that are not based in, we'll say, policy, based in rational thinking. My rational thinking about Wasserman Schultz is almost strictly, I mean, listen, she's a detestable person. She is a shitty person. But
all me, Donald James, all me.
But the policies are absolutely atrocious. It's hard to pick her worst domestic policy. It clearly is payday lenders. If you were to make me pick one, her support of payday lenders is probably as bad as anything that she supports, among so many others. When it comes to foreign policy, yes.
Warhawk.
When it comes to foreign policy, she is a warhawk that makes Lindsey Graham blush. And yes, her worst is obviously the state of Israel, but a very, very close second is the country of Venezuela, which is once again the center of our attention when it comes to foreign policy in the Western Hemisphere. Now, why is that, Jen?
I don't know. I don't like that you do that to me, like somehow I'm your assistant. Well, why? My trusty assistant here will explain it too. Why are we insane about Venezuela? Why do we have such a problem with Venezuela? Because their people voted for somebody that we deem to be a socialist, but that does not want to screw over the people there and take their resources and give them to us. So we have a problem with that. We have a problem with any country that doesn't basically grant us our, its servitude and its, fealty, if you will. And when leaders of other countries don't do that, then we have to take them out.
Yeah, I like living in a world where our federally elected representatives are a little bit more transparent than they used to be. Enter another corrupt and dirty, bought off South Florida federally elected congressional representative, Maria Elvira Salazar.
So this is her.
Reserves of oil in the world that.
Listen carefully again.
We're talking about the largest reserves of oil in the world.
You're not supposed to say that out loud. You're usually.
But why not? Trump already has. I mean, Trump's already explained it. Like, it's these people like her, they're living their glory because they finally really can say it out loud. Like he's given permission for everyone to say the quiet part out loud now. It's glorious.
That will be doing business with the American oil companies. And that is something that I have made very sure that they understand. American companies in Venezuela for the next 100 years.
Holy shit, this woman does not hold back. Now people are like, oh, how could you say such a thing? Actually, Maria, you are beautiful inside and out, baby. Thank you for at least being completely transparent in our filthy, imperialistic, war criminal behavior that we have rained upon the rest of the world. Now, again, we have wanted to get into Venezuela for decades now.
Decades. This started in what was it, the early 2000s when Chavez was elected. And we did not like that. And we tried to take him out, and we did. And then he actually was able to come back because his people like him. And eventually he died. And his replacement is Maduro. So he's in that same Chavista group, in that same party. And so we don't like that. We don't like that. So we're just going to again, we're all that in a bag of chips. So we get to tell every country in the world what they can and cannot do in their waters, in their airspace, with their natural resources, because what's ours is ours and what's theirs is ours. And she thinks it's hers. And by the way, this is another person, another Cuban person with the chip on their shoulder that they were raised with in a similar way to how I was raised Zionist. These Cubans were raised hating everything that even remotely is associated with the word socialism. So she's irrational.
Yes. And let's not forget, the person that she replaced in Congress was Donna Shalala. I call her Shanana.
Who was only there pretty briefly, though.
Correct.
She wasn't there very long.
She was one of the most, you want to talk about a Clinton lackey of the highest order? Holy shit. I mean, dirty. If it's Miami politics, you will be hard pressed to find more corruption anywhere.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. And so in Salazar's position, what she is effectively doing is letting the cat out of the bag. She is admitting that, we're doing what Trump said. We're totally going in for the oil. It's all about the oil. You're not supposed to say that out loud. So, no, it's the truth. What's wrong with telling the truth?
Right.
As you often say, he's the most honest liar we've ever seen.
But how are they doing it? So my theory, or at least from what I've been listening to on the shows that I listen to, is it's not something where we're going to be able to really launch a ground invasion and go in and take over any land or any oil fields there. That's not realistic. But what they could do, and what they are seemingly gearing up to do, is send in troops to kidnap and take Maduro out hostage. That is what they seem to be gearing up to do. But yeah, it's all going to end horribly. It's going to end horribly. And I really think we're going to have our asses handed to us. I do. I think Russia and China will have proxy involvement. I think it's just going to be, ugly.
There is somebody who knows just how ugly this can get. Would you care to guess who?
Well, if you want to talk about somebody with brains, I would say Medea. or Ben Norton or, somebody with brains, I would say those people would know how ugly it's or Colonel Wilkerson, he'll know.
How about the director of national intelligence? Tulsi Gabbard?
No. I mean,
You're
well,
now
she might have
exclusively
been.
Congresswoman.
So is this
yes.
current or is this the old clip?
Ooh, I was going to say that, take a guess when it's from.
It's the old clip because I could tell from her hair.
Well, she doesn't have the silver streak. It says 2020, and she's not under the guise of the Trump
But
administration.
I think we should set that up, especially for people that are listening, right? So this is Tulsi Gabbard, but it's a clip from 2020, and this is what she had to say about thoughts about invading Venezuela.
Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii, a combat veteran and 2020 Democratic presidential candidate. What's your reaction to that? You heard Kellyanne Conway, counselor to the president there.
What we are hearing is an increased saber-rattling intention saying the United States needs to send in the U.S. military now to wage yet another wasteful, counterproductive regime change war. And once again, it's being done under the guise of humanitarianism. When we look throughout history, every time the United States goes into another country and topples a dictator or topples a government, the outcome has been disastrous for the people in these countries. That's why we should use our leadership in the world to try to broker a diplomatic solution, working with countries like Russia that have great influence over Venezuela so that there is a peaceful outcome. Because I can tell you as a soldier, Martha, I've seen firsthand the high cost of war, and pushing for this civil war, pushing for the use of military force will only end up with more suffering and death and disaster for the Venezuelan people. What to speak of increasing these tensions that threaten our own national security. Anytime we're in this situation where you have tensions being ratcheted up and this conflict being pushed closer and closer between nuclear armed countries like the United States and countries like Russia and China, this is something that poses an existential threat to the American people.
So, and we spoke about it last week about that Venezuela is connected to our now, Cold War with China. And that is part of it, because everything that China is doing to further its international position in terms of economics, in terms of the Belt and Road Initiative and all those things, and BRICS, we are looking for every possible way to stop that and supersede that and stay the world hegemon. And Venezuela is something that we see as an opportunity for that because of their oil. And that it isn't just about that we hate them because they're socialists. That's the excuse they use to rile people up. We don't really care one way or the other what they are. We just want what's theirs.
Tulsi is one of the great disappointments because she does know better. She is a smart lady. I've met her multiple times, and she knows the score, but she has a career to think about. A very powerful career.
I think she got a talking to. I think
they all get a talking to. All of them.
And I don't know if it's career or fear or blackmail or whatever it is. I mean, everybody is compromised.
Well, I wouldn't say that everybody's compromised, but the people that
everybody in his circle is compromised.
Yeah, I would say so. And what for? It's not just the Epstein files. I think that this is just a collection of a whole bunch of different problems at the base of the system that is coming apart at the seams, and they don't know what else to do other than to censor, to threaten. How else are you going to get people in line?
What is she saying now? What is she saying now?
She's not saying anything.
That's
one of the reasons why, I came across this because, Crystal Ball had posted this earlier today and said, yeah, Tulsi makes a lot of great points. How come she's not making them now?
I think she's been benched. I think she got benched a long time ago. I think that Marco Rubio is he's in charge. He's calling the shots. I think that she has been asked to basically, sit down and be quiet.
Now, I'm going to direct you to one final clip regarding Venezuela. And I bring this up because for all the flaws that Trump clearly had during his first term, the one thing that he clearly did not allow to happen during his first term, he did not allow the neocons to take over his administration. But they clearly have taken over this one. I don't think anyone within even if you still somehow like the Donald, would deny that this is a neocon's wet dream, that who could have ever imagined that it would come to this point. The Democratic Party is a neocon and neoliberals' wet dream as well. So it's not like we have anywhere to go within the two-party system.
Matter.
But with that said, when you allow certain people to have platforms, and this is why CNN is just as disgusting as Fox News or MSDNC, all of the corporate media outlets. And these are not ones that are even owned by Larry Ellison yet, but the day is young. So he could decide that he wants to buy CNN tomorrow if they don't start talking in the capacity that he wants to hear them talking in. And so what better person to put on a panel on CNN than Stephen Miller's Zionist psychopath wife, Katie Miller, when it comes to international law regarding what we're doing in Venezuela. I wouldn't have believed it if you told me. And even when I see it, I still don't believe it. But that's the brazenness of end-stage capitalism, neocon foreign policy.
That Bakari said. He said that those orders that were given of the drug boats in Venezuela were illegal. Can you cite those statutes, please?
Yes, because it's actually called the Due Process Clause of the United States of America. Because can you point to one of those boats that actually had drugs on them? Do you know that? Do you know about the Trinidadians who were killed innocently, who were just fishermen? Can you actually kill those fishermen without due process? So the answer to the question is yes. I can cite the Constitution, just as Scott did.
If you go and say that those were members of Al-Qaeda or ISIS coming to our shores with enough drugs or enough ammunition to kill 100,000 Americans, wouldn't you expect our commander-in-chief to take action to stop that?
Okay, but here's the thing, Katie. They were nowhere near our shores. That's the thing. That's the key point. It was nowhere near our shores. So nobody was coming here with anything. How does she sit? Like, who can he cite the laws? You know, I am sure that there are actual statutes in terms of international law and maritime law where it might even have specific things that you're not allowed to do. But that is so absurd. Yeah, it's called due process. It is. She's something. Oh, she's something.
Like, first of all, why in the hell is this person on TV is what I want to know.
Well, we know why.
What? Because Stephen Miller, Goebbels, decided to give his wife a position on TV?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely.
So this gets back to the war on terror. This is the war on terror redux. It's being done all over again. We have to kill the terrorists there or they're going to come and kill us here. Do you think it's appropriate if they come and kill 100,000 Americans? We have to kill them first to prevent them from doing it. You know who they sound like? Could you guess who they sound like, ladies and gentlemen? We have to kill all the Palestinians or they're going to come and kill us.
Yes, these are people that believe in preemptive genocide. That's how entitled they are. This is, you know, and she's just absurd. I don't know what her qualifications are for her to be in any sort of.
She doesn't have any.
She has none. Like, I don't know what she does, but. You know, when you're talking about something like self-defense, Katie, it helps if you're on your property and your land when you claim it. See, if you're on someone else's property and you're claiming self-defense, it doesn't work. See, that's the thing. We're in their waters, their airspace.
We'll continue.
That's what's happening here. That is what's happened, by the way. That's what happens in every war zone, whether you go to Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, Somalia. Go there. Let's talk about it.
Give me one name of one individual that you can compare to Al-Qaeda coming through that had enough fentanyl to kill all these Americans. Can you name one?
Let's go to what these drug boats are talking about, which is that we are actively ensuring that the war on drugs that we've been doing for 50 years, which has not
that has been a failure for 50 years.
We can agree on that.
Okay, I've had it. I'm about to blow a gasket. If there is one thing I can say with absolute confidence is that bimbo has probably done a few lines in her life. And
I don't know that. I don't know what she's done. She is not a very bright woman at all.
No. She is the type of person who believes that people living in communities that are downtrodden, having a lot of problems, that they all need to be dealt with accordingly. The war on drugs, I am willing to bet a safe amount of cash that that woman has definitely done some things in her life that would be classified as not above the law. Or
Who hasn't? Who hasn't? Bullshit. Everybody's done
Well, I can
something
think-
that is against the law. Nobody's seriously.
my
You want
point
to know?
is
In
that,
some state, like seriously, oral sex is illegal in some states, Peter. If you really want to like look at it, everybody has violated laws because most of the laws are there to control us, not
yes,
support
I
us
agree
and
with that
protect
100%.
us. So yeah, we've all broken the laws. You didn't drink before you were 21.
Yes, I did.
Okay, you see. Onward.
I just when I see a privileged bimbo like this person, who's also a genocidal maniac on top of everything else, I mean, you make Bakari Sellers look good, you're really fucking up royally, but it's not like they care. For them, they're riding on top of the world right now. They and it makes it so much worse because we've basically become a lawless nation.
As we should be. We are. We are a rogue, lawless nation on the globe that goes around in violation of every sort of moral norm, every international law. We violate every agreement, compact, pact, treaty that we make. And yeah, I'd say we're pretty fucking lawless. And in fact, I find it kind of nerve that any of us are expected to follow laws in a country that is in complete violation of the international law of all like it doesn't make sense. I honestly, nobody should pay taxes in April. Nobody should pay their taxes in April. Seriously. Seriously? I mean, I'd be throwing tea in a harbor, but I don't drink tea and I don't live near a harbor. But that's where we're at. We do not have representation. So why in the world should we do anything according to those rules?
I agree. I think we're heading in that direction. That's why libertarianism is becoming infinitely more popular. That's why people are starting to share that sentiment. And when it comes to just not following the law, and I cannot emphasize this enough, we are at a point now where we have to accept that if we do not fight back against our nation, well, it's not even against our nation. It's simply against those that have power and those who choose to wield that power in an imperialistic way. I would imagine that most of the people around the world agree that the United States and its people, for the most part, do not agree with what's going on. However, are we really in a position where we're willing to rebel? Are we at that point where we are going to say, yeah, we've had enough of this? Well, if we don't say that we've had enough, then what we're ultimately faced with here is something like this. Trump gives Venezuelan dictator, of course he's a dictator, Maduro, stern ultimatum: leave now or else.
Can we pause at the caucasity of this situation? Let's think about this. Can you imagine if another country's president put out an ultimatum to our president that he needs to step down or else? Like, can we wrap our heads around how unbelievably entitled that is and colonistic and disgusting? Like, it's caucasity.
Could we also briefly talk about the fact that Venezuela's currency is attached to the US dollar, and as a result, we can sanction the shit out of them till our heart's content?
Well, we have been. And that is one of the biggest misconceptions about Venezuela that most people have. You know, they think that Venezuela has a failing economy and all these problems, these economic problems, because of socialism. And that's just not true. Now, Venezuela does have problems, and I am not a Maduro supporter by any stretch. It's not my country. I don't vote there. But their biggest problems are caused by our sanctions. we are economic bullies. We're currently sanctioning 60-something countries around the world in a way that makes it where they can't get things that they need, like medicines and certain food products and things that would help their economy that they are unable to procure because the world bully hegemon has decided that anybody who trades with them or gives them products that we deem they're not allowed to have, well, then we're going to sanction you too. So this is why Venezuela has a bulk of its economic problems, is because of us. Not all their problems, but economically a lot.
President Trump gave Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro a strongly worded ultimatum as tensions flared with the South American nation, telling him to resign and leave or else, according to a bombshell report. During a call between Trump and Maduro, the socialist president demanded that he be allowed to maintain control of Venezuela's military if he paved the way for free elections there, said the Miami Herald. Maduro also reportedly sought global amnesty for all of his alleged crimes. Trump's refusal on both counts was said to be swift as he followed up with an offer that Maduro may not be able to refuse. Leave now or else. The pair quickly talked. Damn you with this freaking ad bullshit.
I don't like the New York Post. I think that they're such crap.
Of course they are. But hey, it's the oldest newspaper in the country in terms of major circulation, and I've got to give them their due. At least they're showing what the pro-war, pro-Trump message is. The pair's talks quickly broke down, with a U.S. Poll Sunday lamenting that the ongoing war between the two sides is already deadlier than Vietnam for his state. We have a war coming through fentanyl, through opioids, through cocaine. U.S. Senator Dave McCormick told Fox News Sunday.
Okay, but none of that is coming from Venezuela. That's the problem. They're making these ridiculous claims, and yet they have no evidence. The evidence is the contrary.
You know, it's funny. You get somebody like McCormick in, and then he makes this big leap from fentanyl killed 100,000 Americans last year. That's twice the number of people that died in 8 years of Vietnam, 4,000 Pennsylvanians. It's like, what in the fuck are you comparing this to? Like, what does anything mean to anybody? This ridiculousness.
If they gave a shit about our health and our well-being, then they would be worried about punishing the Sackler family, not going after Venezuela.
Yeah.
Okay? Venezuela is not a source of our epidemic here in any way. It isn't. Most of it comes in from the other side. And that's just not how it works. But the Sacklers have killed hundreds of thousands of people.
Alex,
in an epidemic.
Alex, are you listening to anything we're saying?
I would be, honestly, I have no problem going to Venezuela. It's one of those places that I would want to go to with someone who knows it there. And I don't think it's good there. But one of the main reasons it's not good there is because of us. That's what I'm saying. Their elections are considered more fair than our elections. So that means that their election where they voted in Maduro is infinitely more fair than our election where we vote in our president. So why do we get to say who should be their leader? Like, I'm not saying Venezuela is great. I'm saying it's not our business, that you don't get to go into foreign nations, go into their airspace, into their water, bomb boats out of their water with no evidence of anything, in any way claim self-defense, and that we're entitled to their natural resources. So we're trying to negotiate to force out their leader. This is absurd. And it has nothing to do with me going to Venezuela. I'm not singing praises of Venezuela.
Yeah. And this is also why we look at what's going on in Ukraine and what is the whole purpose? What has always been the purpose of any of these altercations? Throw everything aside. It's always about money and power. It always has been. It always will be. We said this back in 2022 when people got really pissed at us for standing on principle. It was obvious as the day is long that the only reason that there was conflict in Ukraine is because our State Department has been trying to get Ukraine into NATO for the longest time. And for what purpose? For what purpose? Because there are trillions upon trillions of dollars in natural resources in Western Ukraine, and we want it. And the same is true in Venezuela. They have trillions upon trillion with a T of natural resources such as crude oil under their soil, and we want it. It's ours. That's imperialism. This isn't about negotiation. This is about what is. And what is American empire. And so if we're done with Ukraine, we're on to Venezuela. When we're done with Venezuela, we'll be on to Taiwan. And that's the way the world works.
It's very profitable. And right now, though, it's you know, when things are failing in other places, you have to find somewhere else to get people's attention. So right now, they don't want us looking at Ukraine because that was a total failure. And we were unable to do anything other than get thousands and hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian people killed. That's all we've done. That was us. We were big proponents of that. And so that's kind of wrapping up in a way that we're never going to have any sort of, we've achieved no strategic goals whatsoever in that. You've got what's going on in Ziohel, where they're poking and prodding between Lebanon and Syria and all over the place. But at the end of the day, that's going to go nowhere. That's going nowhere. And so now what? Got to go into Venezuela, which will also go nowhere. It will go nowhere.
Yeah. And what do we have something to say here with this yellow journalism graphic?
Well, and I just thought, this is my thought about the New York Post. It belongs in the Journal of Contemporary Yellow Journalism, a record of news fit to piss on.
Well, I don't know how you feel about the BBC, but
it's really, you know what? I used to like the BBC, but now really it's the same as CNN. It's the same.
Isn't that just kind of the way it is with most of these? I mean, remember, so much of corporate media is just bought up by these billionaire scumbags. And I mean, even Jared Kushner owns some type of a media outlet. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but the fact of the matter is, we have to take all news with a grain of salt. But with that said, what is currently going on in Ukraine is they are trying to finally end this thing, but they say that the point of contention, according to Zelensky, like it's his fucking decision, says Ukraine territory most difficult issue as U.S. envoy prepares to meet Putin. And from what has been reported by ABC News and a few other publications, Russia has just taken over 2 more Ukrainian cities, despite Ukraine denying that that's what's happened. It is unquestionably something that could have ended within a matter of days.
It never would have happened if we had actually been and Ukraine was abiding by the Minsk agreements. None of this needed to happen. Contrary to what they're trying to tell people, that Russia is seeking to take over Ukraine. Putin doesn't want to have control over a country that doesn't want to be controlled. He doesn't want that. This happened because the Nazi element in Western Ukraine has been persecuting and creating, having violence against the Russian-speaking portion of Ukraine. And the Russian-speaking portion of Ukraine wanted and voted to be part of Russia. And instead, Ukraine, who had originally agreed to that, said, nah, we're not going to do that. And then the next thing you know, NATO and us are like putting our weapons and all of our military on the border and saying we're going to do some exercises. So none of this had to happen. Definitely. But it was very profitable.
President Zelensky has said Kiev's priorities in peace talks to end the war with Russia are maintaining Ukraine's sovereignty and securing strong security guarantees. Zelensky said the territorial issue is the most difficult, as Russia continues to demand that Ukraine give up areas of the eastern Donbas region that it still holds, which Kiev maintains it will never do. He was speaking after meeting French President Emmanuel Macron, who I will get to by the weekend, in Paris, where he joined a call with European leaders, including those of the UK, Germany, Poland, and Italy. Meanwhile, Ukraine and U.S. negotiators finished 2 days of meetings in Florida as they work to revise a peace plan viewed as favoring Russia.
There's no other way this is ending. The only reason that Russia is continuing along is because Ukraine, via Ukraine, keeps fighting back. And so Russia inevitably is advancing, but they would have ended this a long time ago. Boris Johnson had the opportunity and went in there and totally sold,
Within like the first week.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's like, nah, we're gonna keep this going. So it was very profitable. I bet he has stock options. But so,
Look into BlackRock, look into State Street, look into Vanguard. Private equity will be the death of capitalism if it isn't already.
Yeah, Russia is not losing this. Not only are they not losing it, and yes, they will suffer more casualties. They will do that, but not anywhere near the rate as what's happening on the Ukrainian side. And they are only going to advance. Okay, Crimea, the Donbass, the areas that they took, not going back to Ukraine. It's never going to happen at this point. Ukraine isn't even a real country. It's another one of those make-believe countries that we drew up that is one of the most corrupt, if not the most corrupt country on the planet, run by Nazis.
The White House struck a positive tone on the talks on Monday, today, with Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt saying the administration feels very optimistic about a deal being reached to end the war. Zelensky was more circumspect, posting on X that the talks were very constructive, but there are some tough issues that still have to be worked through. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, Zionazi, who attended the talks with the Ukrainian delegation, is now bound for Russia, where he will meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday. They will be joined by the Donald son-in-law, Jared Kushner, the person who you believe is the brains of the entire Trump operation.
In Gaza, for sure.
Sure. Witkoff has spoken with Zelensky, Macron, Ukrainian chief negotiator Rustem Umerov, and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and is expected to relay the result of the discussions to Putin. Last week said in a draft peace plan has been shown by the Americans to Russia, and that it could become the basis for a future agreement to end the war. The initial U.S.-Russia draft peace plan circulated in November sparked consultation in Kiev and around Europe. As well as being heavily slanted toward Moscow's demands, it also dictated how several billions worth of frozen Russian assets currently held in European financial institutions should be invested and dictated in terms of Kiev's access to EU markets. So again, what does that tell you? You think that the people are going to benefit from this? This is no different than who is going to benefit from stealing all of the oil in Venezuela. Who's benefiting from that? Do we live in a country where our imperialism ever benefits the average citizen? No. This is an oligarchic fascist monopoly that is running the world. And we're still sitting around twiddling with our thumbs square up our ass and not willing to actually stop this because, again, it is a united working class front that is needed. There is no other way. You will never see any tangible benefit. And the only people who are suggesting that any of this is actually good are people that are being paid to say it. Now, we're very well aware of all of the shit libs and conservative cucks, if you want to call them that are being paid by the establishment to spout these talking points against Ukraine or Russia, more so Russia, and then, of course, Venezuela, and, of course, the Palestinians. For what purpose? Money and power, that's all it ever was, that's all it ever will be. And if you still can't see it, keep watching our channel. Maybe you'll get it at some point. Jen, your thoughts?
I mean, I don't even understand why we still have NATO. I mean, I understand why we have NATO, but we don't need it. So to me, the whole exercise in that, I have said it a million times. I don't understand why we find Russia to be an enemy. Even if our beef was the Soviet Union and communism, clearly that's not them anymore. So I don't understand how the country that ended World War II with us is our enemy in the first place. So that I don't understand. So why do we need NATO? We don't. And that's the biggest problem. So us even having NATO, to me is very provoking and incendiary to Russia, as it should be. Why in the world does the entire European bloc and us need to be like joined together against them? For what reason? What have they done that warrants that? So it's one of those things that's not based on evidence and reason. It's based on fear mongering and propaganda. And so I don't support things that are based on fear mongering and propaganda. So
I definitely agree. And once again, what we are going to see, because I do believe the Ukraine war, the conflict, because there was no declaration of war, what I do see in terms of its conclusion is going to be exactly what we talked about almost 4 years ago. It's going to be exactly as we expected.
yes,
It didn't have to exist. But you know what did end up happening over the last 4 years, guys? You know what did happen? A whole bunch of innocent people got killed, and a whole bunch of oligarchs got even richer.
yes. And let's not forget, I've said it before, I'm half Russian. I have my great grandma's shawl that she used to wear framed from Russia that was one of the few things that they took when they left during the pogroms. And I have that hanging on my wall. So like I did my DNA, like I'm Russian. So I don't understand the beef. I don't.
Well, the beef isn't what you think. It's not beef. What we have are pierogies. Do you like pasta with potato inside?
Of course. Of course. You know I like all the starches.
Well, that's exactly why you're Russian, because it's in your blood. Unfortunately, you don't really drink vodka. That's not necessarily your drink of choice. But you come to our country and remember how tough we are. We are much tougher than Americans. You know why? Because we lost 30 million people in World War II. You lost 500,000. And it's so constructed, the constructed conflict between us and Russia. We're living in, it's like a Rocky IV episode to these people. It doesn't make any sense. None of it makes sense. Both China and Russia have said on multitudes of occasions that they want to be allies with us, that they want to get along with us, that they want to work with us. Russia originally wanted to join NATO. Like this is like this made up thing so that we can just create huge amounts of profits for the military industrial complex. Like it's not based on any reality. I mean, it's all pretty common sense at this point. You can't look around and not recognize what this all is. And if he dies, he dies.
They're just not a threat to us. I'm not singing praises of Putin. I don't know what their country is like for the people that I really don't. I know that we do not have a leg to stand on regarding anything. So whatever it is that they do or don't do, that's not of concern to me. They don't do anything to threaten us. They don't do anything to threaten us. They've never done anything to threaten us. This is so silly.
They've done plenty to threaten us. What are you talking about? The whole concept of capitalism could have been ended if the Soviet Union was able to collect the necessary share of countries. And again, when people say
this is not the Soviet Union, I understand that. We're not talking about the Soviet Union. We're talking about Russia. And Russia historically has not been a threat to us. What are we defending ourselves from? What is it?
The closest threat, or actually the only real threat, if you really think about it, to the United States of America is Israel.
Yes, that's the only threat that's the biggest threat to the planet right now. Well, us and Israel.
And we, of course, were attacked and nothing ever happened. But that's a story for another day. If you're enjoying this conversation so far, which we hope you are, we hope you'll consider going over to patreon.com/revolutionary change for as little as $5 a month. You can become a supporter of our small but mighty and growing channel, as we are now closing in on 92,000 subscribers. We currently are sitting at 91,850. I don't know if we'll get to 92,000 tonight, but if you haven't hit that subscribe button, we certainly would encourage you to do so. And of course, any and all support really does make a difference. And we are off to a very strong start this evening. Sarah Durand, thank you so much for becoming a YouTube member. We really appreciate you being here. Jerry Swallows, well, maybe. Thank you for the 2 Canadian A. Always a pleasure. Well, you have Dimitri on tonight. Nice. Yes, we are very excited to have him. Donald James, good to see you, sir. 2-year anniversary. Well, let's freaking go. Cheers, non-alcoholic beer. Hey, O'Douls can hit the spot and not the high either. It's all good. Jim Talib, always a pleasure. Thank you for the $5 super sticker. Libertarian Social Democrat with the $1.99. I hope Claudia is not another Maria Salazar Azayo. We hope so too. We hope so too. Noah Linden with the $5. It's good that Trump is honest about his evil intentions. It prompts the rest of the world to see America for what it is and act accordingly. Jen,
Agreed.
Forever.
Yeah.
Piano Man, thank you very much for the $10 super sticker. Always a pleasure to have you. Libertarian Social Democrat with the $1.99 once more. Did you hear what Grifter Mace said about immigrants? Nancy Mace is going to say whatever she needs to say until it's time to take Lindsey Graham's Senate seat. That's how it's going to be. That's politics, baby. Our trusty mod with the 5 Canadian A, Revolutionary Change plus Dimitri Lascaris equals my 2 favorite channels and what I consider my people's been looking forward to tonight for a long time. We always appreciate you, my friend. Our favorite brother in arms, Anthony Aguilar with the $9.99. All of this literally makes me sick to my stomach. This administration is, simply put, dangerous. Not dimply put, but I have a couple of dimples. Americans need to wake up. Like I said, we're in Venezuela before Christmas. Yeah. Just how much more of this bullshit are we as Americans going to take? That's the question. How many different ways can we be fucked in the ass Sunday? Like, that's the question. And how many times are you going to take it without any lubrication and say, can I have another, please? Because it feels really good. Mm-hmm. Arlene Chambers, where have you been? It is so lovely to see you. Thank you for the $20. Spot on, Jen. No one should pay taxes. The key is getting everyone on board with that action.
Oh, yeah.
Become a libertarian. That's the fastest way to get it done. Shaitadan with the $4.99, hoping Maduro follows through on his promise of a second Vietnam on the ExxonMobil forces we call our military. Yes. But remember, for those multinational corporations like ExxonMobil, they don't care how many people have to die as long as they get to control the oil. That's the bottom line. Our trusty mod with the 5 Canadian A once more. Talk to Dimitri about Venezuela. He was invited there to oversee elections just a couple of years ago. He also did amazing pieces on Iran and others. We'll talk to him about a lot. Shatadan with a $1.99. So many words are banned from Super Chat now. Yeah, they are.
Not because of us. Not because of us, mind you.
Shit, we're welcome. We welcome all language. Mark J with the $2. Always a pleasure. U.S. warmongering rogue nation is collapsing. Not fast enough, at least not fast enough to avoid endless war, or in this case, possibly world war. And finally, Cuba44 with the $4.99. Did you see that Salazar woman on Fox News talk about $1 trillion to be gained by U.S. oil companies? Yes, isn't that wonderful that the oil companies are going to get another $1 trillion?
That Salazar woman, yeah, she's in the vicinity of me, unfortunately.
I guess the only good thing you could say about her is that she's not Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
No, that's not.
And finally, Marvin Vargas with the $2. Trump pardoned ex-pres Honduras drug trafficker. Do you know why? Of course not. But Trump likes to pardon anybody that is good for business. That's the bottom line.
Do I know why? I know it serves whatever his interests or his donors' interests are. That's what I know. That's why.
Well, the person we're bringing on here this evening, I don't think needs much of an introduction aside
well,
from
I'm going to give one anyway. Okay. So I came across Dimitri Lascaris because I watch his show Reason to Resist on YouTube. But then I did a little digging, and he is actually very fascinating. So he's a lawyer, but a badass lawyer that goes after big companies and fights for the little people, which I love. And also a journalist, but apparently had a very, very profitable run as a card counter, doing card counting at blackjack tables. So I thought that was really interesting. So anyway, I'm very excited to have him on.
The Greek version of Stephen Donziger, it would appear.
Definitely fighting for, yes, kind of, yeah.
Dimitri Lascaris, welcome to Revolutionary Change.
Thank you for the kind introduction. Good to be here.
Hi, and it's Lascaris, right?
Actually, the accent's on the first syllable. It's Lascaris, but I say Lascaris because that's the people who speak English tend to say. So
okay, so you say it that way. So I've heard it that way.
Yeah. So people who speak English tend to say Lascaris as you did, but in Greek it's actually Lascaris.
Lascaris. That's really cool.
Well, I will not be a full-on gringo. I will say Lascaris because that is the appropriate pronunciation. And
thank you. Appreciate it.
I certainly we appreciate you being here, and I don't know if you saw, Jen, but I did see your, ironically enough, we actually just spoke with BetBeat Media this past week, and so it was just by happenstance that I was browsing in preparation and I came across the interview that you guys had, and I look around the world right now and I can't help but think that all of these signs of collapsing empire just seem to be coming together all over the place.
Yeah. So somebody who splits your time between Canada and Greece, right? Like, can you, this is just sort of like a, not personal question, but just sort of like something that's not political, but what are key differences that you're noticing in terms of the perception of American empire in those different places? Like what, you know what I mean? Like what do you get in terms of a feel from people in those places?
Well, Canada, for example, has much less tolerance for people on the left of the political spectrum. So in Greece, for example, I think it's the third or fourth largest party is the Communist Party of Greece, which has consistently obtained somewhere in the range of 6 or 7%. Sometimes it's a little bit closer to 10% of the popular vote. And then there are other parties on the left. And unfortunately, in Greece, the left tends to be quite splintered. So there are 3 or 4 parties of the left, or at least that hold themselves out as being left-wing. So Greece, as a result, has a much more diverse political representation within Parliament. Here in Canada, there is nothing like that, zero. The most left-wing party would be the New Democratic Party, but that's really a misnomer. It's on domestic policy, it's a centrist party. And on foreign policy, I would say it's actually center-right. And then you get the Liberals, who are very much on the right of the political spectrum. And then you have the Conservatives, and some are even more to the right of the Conservatives. All of them are more or less united on Canadian foreign policy, which is very closely aligned with the United States government and the British government. I like to say that Canada has never been anything but a vassal for its entire history. And it was a British vassal up until the end of the Second World War, when the British Empire collapsed. And then it seamlessly transitioned into becoming a United States vassal. But there's always been some boss from outside of the country that dictates Canadian foreign policy, whereas Greece has had more of a rebellious past. And one thing that I think has really shaped Greek politics profoundly is that in 1967, the United States government orchestrated a coup in Greece, which installed a colonel in the Greek army who was actually a CIA agent. This was established after the fact. Oh. His name was Papadopoulos, and he had been a Nazi collaborator during the Second World War. And engaged in various forms of repression, including torture, and was finally overthrown by an popular uprising in 1972, I think it was. So that and other episodes of Greek history have caused, I think, a lot more skepticism about foreign policy in Greece than you find here in Canada.
It sounds to me, the more I learn about world history, especially with this brief lesson, is that you almost have to wonder, knowing the United States being what they are, I'm surprised that they weren't fighting on the side of the Nazis against the Red Army. It almost seems like that would have been the natural inclination if, perhaps a lot of it did have to do with FDR and how he really felt. And and versus maybe how the State Department felt. I mean, we know that after the war, so many Nazi collaborators or outright Nazis themselves were brought over to the States to work in various capacities via intelligence, especially during the Cold War. So it really doesn't surprise me at all that so much of what we learn about our country is very dark and disturbing, but it was kept in the shadows for a very long time. But it does appear that there is somewhat of a great awakening that's happening right now in this country. Your thoughts on that?
I certainly have that strong impression from listening to so many fine commentators in the alternative media in the United States. You know, somebody that I've been watching a lot lately, more because I'm fascinated with what she's saying and how it's being perceived by her audience, is Candace Owens. You know, I have a lot of disagreement with Candace Owens on a number of issues, but to listen to somebody who has such a high profile amongst Republicans and those who supported Donald Trump routinely on a daily basis eviscerate Israel and openly criticize Zionism in the harshest of terms and with complete justification, because we are witnessing and have been witnessing for over 2 years a genocide by this apartheid entity. This is just mind-blowing to me. And of course, she's not alone. You have people, again, somebody with whom I disagree on a number of issues, Tucker Carlson, courageously coming out and saying he was wrong about a U.S. foreign policy. He was wrong about Israel, America serving, going to war and expending tens of billions of dollars on advancing Israel's regional objectives is contrary to the interests of the American people. I've never seen anything like this in my entire life. It's extraordinary. And I just mentioned, two of the most prominent examples of this on the right. So the one thing we haven't seen yet in the United States, and by the way, I lived in the United States for 7 years, so in New York City, so I got to know, at least in that part of the country, the political discourse fairly well. And the one thing we yet haven't seen in the United States is this translate into a rebellion at the ballot box, where people are voting for neither the Republicans nor the Democrats. The great majority of Americans are still voting either Republican or Democrat if they vote. And of course, a very significant percentage are fed up with politics so much that they don't even vote anymore. But unless and until we see this discontent with the political elite, both Democrat and Republican, translate into a shift in voting patterns, I don't think we're going to see any real change in the foreign policy of the government. Whatever, anger there may be amongst the general population in America. And this is true of throughout the major Western countries. In Canada, the vast majority of the people continue to vote for the two parties, the Liberals and Conservatives, who have dominated government for the entire post-World War II period. As in the United States, there's never been a party since the Second World War that was in power federally in Canada that was not liberal or conservative, both of whom, as I say, have the right-wing neoconservative foreign policy. So we desperately need to see people finally cast their ballots for some party other than the two parties of war that rule all of Western society, not just the United States.
Yeah, this is a global situation. I feel like we're having a global revolution, and it's happening. It's happening. I mean, people think that war is revolution. The war comes at the end of the revolution. That's how it ends. But we're in this revolution, and I do feel it bubbling up in a lot of places. And empires scrambling, like playing whack-a-mole, trying to get everything in order and trying to keep everything under control. But it's really not working. I wanted to ask you something, going back to your time living in New York and about that, because I know you started out working for the man, and that you realized that that's not good. I want to know what that was like for you, because I think you're a little bit older than me, like not too much older than me. But at that time, what was going on in, on Wall Street, where you were, where you're like, this is not for me?
Well, I worked for a firm called Sullivan and Cromwell, which when I was coming out of law school, was understood to be one of the 3 or 4 best corporate law firms in the United States. I graduated from the University of Toronto Faculty of Law. I spent my whole life in Canada up until that point in time, but I wanted to, first of all, I was burdened by debt after coming out of law school. And the fastest way for me to be able to pay that debt off was to get a job on Wall Street, because the pay there was much better than anything I could get in Canada. Even the highest paying job in the Canadian legal profession for an incoming lawyer was nowhere near as lucrative as a Wall Street position. And also, to be honest with you, my politics leaned to the right at that time. So I was politically oriented towards doing that kind of work, work on Wall Street for the elite. And very quickly when I came in, first of all, one thing I noticed immediately was that I stood out as being somebody from an immigrant background who did not go to private school and who had not attended an Ivy League school in the United States, simply because my family couldn't afford such a thing. And I was surrounded by people who were overwhelmingly white and privileged. A lot of the men had a Roman numeral after their name. I'd never met any of those before. They were, all of them, with a couple of exceptions who later, I think, sold out, were oriented politically to the right. And they were people, I must say, the people I was surrounded by were people of enormous skill and dedication to the job at hand. They were amongst the best you're going to find in the legal profession, and they were completely and utterly committed in their day-to-day lives as lawyers to advancing the interests of the elites. So, for example, one of the big cases they were working on at Sullivan and Cromwell at the time was defending Microsoft from an antitrust prosecution by the U.S. government. Back in those days, from time to time, the U.S. government did prosecute the large corporations for antitrust violations, and they would just, the amount of money that they were prepared to spend, these corporate clients, in order to defend themselves from well-grounded charges of violating U.S. federal law was unbelievable. Huge gobs of money, armies of lawyers. The money was no object to them. The legal bills that I saw were gigantic, and the high net worth individuals that we defended as well. And our job with respect to securities regulation and banking regulation, it was very clear when I came in, was to help. Our clients were careful to stay within the four corners of the law, but they were constantly pushing the boundaries outward of what they could get away with, looking for loopholes, looking for weaknesses and ambiguities, using their power and their wealth in order to lobby governments and regulators to weaken regulation that was, oriented to protect the public interest. I saw this every single day, and it became quite apparent to me within a couple of years that I was basically working in the service of the wealthiest and most powerful and influential Americans. That was my job, to protect their interests to the detriment of the general public. And so, as I've said many times, after 4 or 5 years of doing that, what was a soul-crushing experience. I was so disenchanted that I told the partners that I work with that I'd had enough, and they tried to encourage me to remain because I was a pretty hardworking guy, and I was a dutiful servant of the partnership. But I just couldn't do it anymore. And I was so disenchanted by it that I actually left the legal profession altogether. As you mentioned, I then went off and did something that was really unusual. And by the way I got into becoming a high-stakes professional blackjack player was that other disgruntled Wall Street lawyers whom I had met at the time, they formed the team and then recruited me to join their team. Everybody that I worked with on that team, there was a core of about 8 of us at the beginning. It grew to be, over 100 people. But the 8 core players were all disgruntled former Wall Street professionals. And
there was a movie based on this, right? Like wasn't there a movie like 21?
Yeah, a Zionist specialist known as Kevin Spacey did a movie.
A Zionist pedo.
Yeah, wasn't what was her name? Name's slipping me right now. The cute
That's
blonde
awesome
girl.
that you did that, though. I always thought that was more, and I'm not saying that you're not exceptionally bright, because you are definitely exceptionally bright, but I always thought that was more like a real savant kind of thing, like being able to count cards. Like the fact that there's that many people that can be doing it is crazy to me, that you would even have teams,
Yeah, it actually isn't that hard. So people, you don't memorize the actual cards that are coming out of the shoe at the time. What's happened is that some very smart mathematicians years before I became a professional blackjack player, developed a system to simplify the task, and they assigned an arithmetic value to each card. So the simplest, I don't want to waste too much of your time on this, but the simplest system is called the high-low, and every card in the deck is assigned a value of either -1, 0, or +1. So you just, after a while, you practice, and when the card comes out of the shoe, you don't see, jack, you don't see king, you don't see ace. What you see is a number. The number is +1, -1, or 0. And in your head, you just keep a running count as they're coming out. You're subtracting, adding, and it really becomes like a mindless task. You just have to practice a lot. The hard part about it, frankly, was doing it in a casino without letting on that you were counting cards, which is perfectly.
It has a limited lifespan. Let's be real.
Exactly.
That's a very it's sort of like you can only get away with it for so long.
Absolutely, and the casinos at that time were becoming increasingly sophisticated at surveillance, and it's a little known fact that facial recognition technology came out of the casino industry. I actually had to bring a lawsuit under U.S. privacy legislation against back in the 90s against a company called Biometrica, which was based in Boston. They were one of the pioneers of facial recognition technology, and I never imagined back then that this would become, ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Facial recognition technology. It's far more sophisticated now than it was then.
Well, as somebody who used to go to Atlantic City, I lived in Monmouth County, New Jersey for most of my life growing up. And I only liked playing poker, but I also understand the degenerate side of gambling. I've seen it. It's affected my family and friends. So yeah, I can also understand the moral compass and the fight that you were dealing with when you were working at a high-powered law firm, probably somewhere on Fifth Avenue or somewhere within that vicinity. I just have to know before we continue, have you ever been to the Halal Euro stand at 53rd and 6th, directly across from the Hilton Hotel? Have you ever been to that one?
I may well have been. I'm not sure why you're asking, but it's entirely possible.
For somebody who's Greek, I will say
It's
this.
fun.
I'm not Greek, but that's
It's his
the best.
favorite place. That's why
My
he's
favorite.
asking you. Peter loves it.
That's like on a Saturday night after the Knick game or something like that. That's a 2-hour line and no one cares because it's that type of street food that was off the charts. So.
In New York City, it will always be in my heart. I have a deep affection for that place, even though it's changed quite a bit since the 90s, unfortunately, not for the better.
I want to circle back to, and I wanted to circle back to a little earlier what you said about Candace Owens. And I think in her case, it's just a question that her friend, and I do believe Charlie was her friend, that they killed him. And she's made it her mission to basically say, look, I'm wealthy. I have a huge platform. I'm going to use it. And I know who can, and the funny thing is that people are surmising like what her motivation is. And, is she really trying to find the killer or killers for that matter? She knows exactly who killed him. She is just trying to create a platform that convinces millions of other people exactly who the killers are as well. So over the past 2 years plus now, I mean, we've always been about transforming politics into service, but obviously this has turned a huge corner in recent times. And as a result, we were convinced beyond anything else that it was necessary to use our platform to identify the source of what I believe is the biggest problem within our very broken system that is going to collapse. And that is our attachment to this genocidal Zio state. And for Jen, obviously, it's very personal. Growing up in that environment, for me, working with Jen over the past several years, I've always had, let's just say, a not so positive attitude about Israelis in general, just how they conduct business and whatnot. And if you worked at a high-powered law firm in Manhattan, clearly you know a thing or two about the Israelis.
You've encountered the species.
I'm in commercial real estate, so I deal. I've made it a point that when it comes to multifamily investing, I say this publicly so everyone can hear it. I will not work with Israelis under any circumstances. So, but that's a choice. You can choose to do that. And as you were saying earlier, it's like, yeah, I'm working at this law firm. I'm making high six figures. Let's just assume it was somewhere in that neighborhood. And there are people who are willing to just look the other way. this is my job. I'm just like Alan Dershowitz. I don't ask questions. I'm just getting paid because I'm following the law. Or you have an attack of conscience and you decide that I can't do this anymore. I don't know, quoting you from earlier today, how you can be 2 goddamn years into this and even have an ounce of support for Israel at this point. As far as I'm concerned, anybody who does is aiding and abetting a genocide. You are a part of it.
Yes.
By proxy, you are aiding and abetting a genocide. That's where I stand. And I believe that if we collectively continue to spread the message that is necessary, that is how we are eventually going to coalesce and get out from under Israel's / the U.S. State Department's boot. There is no other way.
Yeah. Just for the record, the amount of money I was paid when I came in was $85,000.
Yeah, this was a while ago, Peter. Dimitri's a little bit older than me. I know he looks great and all, but he's a little bit older than me.
1992, that was a lot of dough. That was a lot of
Yeah.
dough. You know,
92, 85,000, 92. That's probably about close to, I would say 250, 300,000
Right.
today.
Peter's putting it in today's dollars for us.
And by the way, that I haven't checked recently, but that is about what they're making today. When you come out of law school, last time I checked, at these top law firms, they're pulling in over $200,000, $250,000 a year straight out of law school. They don't know shit. They don't know anything about the practice of law.
No,
but that's how much money these firms have to splash around. Now,
they don't need them to know the law. They just need them to bill hours. It does not matter what they know. It matters how many hours they bill.
And when you're 25 years old and you're getting paid $250,000 a year, $300,000 a year, and you get to live in an apartment in the East Village or in Tribeca, yeah, you're thinking you're God. You're like, oh, I got it made. Don't ask questions, though.
Yeah, this was an amount of money that just blew my mind. I have to tell you back then. And so to see this coming out, the amount of money they're splashing around now. And when they come in, they are ignorant, but they are. I will say this about working in that firm. The quality of the training I received was second to none. They really invest a lot of time and energy into making their young lawyers highly skillful, and these people work like animals. So they are singularly committed to their own interests. And I just want to mention one other thing about Sullivan and Cromwell. In January, since we're on the subject of Zionism on Wall Street, in the middle of last year, Forbes revealed that Sullivan and Cromwell was running background checks on job applicants who attended anti-Israel demonstrations, and they were a leader in, if I could put it that way, not in a good way, on Wall Street in stigmatizing and disenfranchising young students who were fully qualified to do the work because they had simply expressed support for victims of a genocide. You know, that's how morally depraved Wall Street is. That should be a reason to hire people. Sullivan and Cromwell viewed that as a reason to blackball people from the legal profession, no matter how skillful they may have been. But to go back to what you were saying about, you know, the sort of moral compass of people who support Israel today, as I was saying in my conversation with Karim, if you have a functioning brain, okay, and you have access to the internet, and you're an adult, and you have continued to support Israel right up until the current time, after 2+ years of the most depraved, sadistic, monstrous behavior being committed by Israel, being, atrocities being inflicted upon Palestinians, not just with shamelessness, but with delight. I mean, they actually take sadistic delight. The Israelis who support their government and their military, and the vast majority of them, according to polls, do. I mean, I think you're the lowest of the low. Like, you are actually a danger to society. You're not just a danger to Palestinians, Arabs, and Muslims. You're a danger to all of us because you are profoundly racist, and you think the most extreme forms of violence by those who come from the privileged class is not only justified, but is admirable. If that isn't a danger to society, I don't know what is. I find it, if you had told me, you know, before this genocide began, that there would remain, after what we have witnessed for the past 2+ years, this level of support in our society for Israel, I think a majority of people have turned against Israel, but there's still a very significant, vocal, and influential minority who support Israel. I wouldn't have believed it. I wouldn't have believed it. I would have thought that almost no one would continue to support Israel today. It's shocking to me that there still is, you know, some, I don't know, 20, 30% of the population remain really powerfully, passionately committed to this genocidal entity.
I'm wondering what the breakdown of that is in terms of Jewish Zionists, Christian Zionists, capitalists, for whatever their reasons are, because let's be, I mean, like there's different reasons, secular and not, why people are with this, whether it's just the people that have real estate investments versus the Christian Zionists that are waiting for a rapture. So, I mean, I think that it's a variety of reasons, but the indoctrination runs very deep. It took me a lot of years to deprogram the Zionist mindset. You know, I mean, I was raised in it. So I kind of get it to some extent. Like there are people, the more you're indoctrinated in it, the harder it is to get out. And also the more your life is tied to that. Like it's who you are. So for a lot of the people that are like, at least the Jewish Zionists, this would unravel their whole lives. Like if they're to accept this, then it would basically take away everything that they thought to be true about who they were and what, like people are not willing to do that. That's what I think is a big part of the problem, at least for the Western Jewish Zios.
I think that there is something to be said for how Jewish Zionists feel, how Christian Zionists feel, and then ultimately how capitalists feel.
Well, and that's really what this is about. Let's be real.
So much of, like I said, the tolerance in my line of work. I went to a multifamily conference in Vegas earlier this year. And yeah, probably in terms of those people from Brooklyn and Miami, 40-50% of the people that were there. And so when people want to know, why have we not disconnected ourselves from this genocidal state? It's because the Israelis and the Jewish Zios in general have wrapped themselves up in one of the most important pillars of our financial infrastructure, and that is commercial real estate, specifically housing. So when you want to know why we can't just disassemble this relationship, that is one of the key components as far as I can see.
Can I show Dimitri the license plate? Because you weren't on here. We talked about this. Florida has issued a new license plate. Florida has a bunch of different vanity type plates that they offer, and the money goes to whatever organization. And so this is the new one.
Oh my God.
Okay. And I had heard about it. I had known it was coming, and I now have officially seen it on the first car the other day. That's what we're dealing with here. This is why I'm leaving South Florida. I cannot be around these people.
Yeah.
But there is a more interesting situation that is happening right now. And we've obviously covered it, because it is clear that the level of censorship is getting to a point where it's being done because they have a fear of losing control of the narrative, which they've already lost, and they're going to lose it altogether. But with that said, we know that Israelis have been fleeing to Cyprus. They have been attempting to flee to Thailand. The Thai are now fighting back against that in a pretty profound way. We are very well aware of history repeating itself in Argentina, and Milei is doing everything in his capacity to basically be bribed off so that way the Israelis can relocate to Buenos Aires, among other places. But now it appears that Portugal.
I'm so sad for Portugal.
Is on the map, and they appear to be in a situation where what appears to me, and I'll pull up the article because I do think that this is important to show here.
It's horrible. And Dimitri, I mean, if you could add anything that we might not know about what's going on with the Zios on Cyprus. I mean, I feel bad. I feel bad for the Greeks. I feel bad for the Turk. I feel bad for the Mediterranean in general, that they have to deal with this. How bad is it in Cyprus?
It's bad. It's real bad. I mean, I've been going to Cyprus. I have family in Cyprus. My sister married a Greek Cypriot 20 years ago or so. 30 years ago, and they have 4 beautiful kids, all of whom were born and raised in Cyprus. So I've been going there a long time, and I can compare the way it is now to the way it was then. And I've been going to Greece since I was a kid. And within the past 2 years, I'm actually, sometimes I have the impression that Israel has a gigantic population, because wherever I go in Greece and Cyprus, I see Israelis. They're all over the place. They're not there just in the summertime, in the tourist season. You see them in the off season as well. And they're buying up huge amounts of property, especially in Cyprus. They have, they're erecting in Cyprus huge, modern, glitzy residential towers, and they're careful about, most of them are careful about not saying that they're exclusively for Israelis, but they're being marketed overwhelmingly to Israelis in the Israeli media in Israel. And some of them, actually, there was one complex I found when I was there recently. I did a couple of investigative reports about this. They weren't shy about saying that this is a Jewish-only residential complex. They just came right out and said it. And when they said Jewish, they were talking about, pro-Israel. It was very clear, because they had, because the sort of wealthy person who was funding the development of this residential complex was stating openly to the British press, he was actually Jewish, but from Britain, that he wanted to create a second home, a friendly environment for Israelis. That's what it was about, Israelis. And so I think that what they're doing for a lot of these Israelis who are flooding into the Mediterranean basin, and now, as you mentioned, Portugal is in their crosshairs. A lot of them are abandoning Israel outright. Some of them are just setting up a second residence, so it's kind of like a plan B if things go really to hell, and at any time they could go completely to hell in Israel the way it's behaving. Then they'll be able to just safely transition out of the country to their second residence. And some of them just use it as kind of like a vacation home, and maybe it's kind of like an insurance policy in their minds. But you get people across with different sort of priorities from the Israeli society who are trying to establish a presence in the Mediterranean basin in a European country, and they want to very much have access to the privileges of the EU. They want to have an EU passport. This is very important to them, and the number is really astonishing. I don't think the Israeli government has even been close to transparent about how big a problem this is. This is a huge problem for Israeli society. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that the people who are the people who are leaving or who are establishing Plan B, which will enable them to leave if things get really bad, they're naturally going to be the people who are most mobile in Israeli society. And who are the people who are most mobile? They're the people who are the most highly educated, right? Those are the people who are going to leave first, and those are the people who have left in large numbers. So the long-term cost to the Israeli economy are going to be huge as a result of this exodus.
Good.
And by the way, when this genocide started, I actually wrote on my website a two-part article, a very long article called "America's Unsinkable Aircraft Carriers Sinking." And in that article, I won't go through all of the analysis, but the conclusion of my article was that the way that this genocide would end would be that Israel would lose the demographic war. This demographic war that they've been talking about, the Israeli political elite, for so long. So many people would leave that it would no longer, so many Israeli Jews would leave Israel because of the consequences of their government's own depravity and lawlessness, that eventually there wouldn't be enough Israeli Jews there to control the indigenous Palestinian population. They simply would no longer have the practical ability to do it. And I believe more than ever that that's the way this is going to end. And there will be a single state. Whether they call it Palestine or Israel, it's going to be a state in which Palestinians are treated as full citizens. And anybody from Israeli Jewish society who can't tolerate that is going to have to go elsewhere.
Yeah. Like the white genocided South Africans that are having to escape their persecution,
Exactly.
otherwise known as "we don't want to live equally." Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, according to The Resident, which is the primary newspaper out of Lisbon, thousands of Israelis queue in hope of Portuguese citizenship.
Oh my God.
Embassy system crashes due to pressure. This will give you guys an example of just how many people are lining up. Yes, very diverse crowd there. Thousands of Israelis waited in line outside cinema. Man, you can always tell when a person blog wrote this together. Outside. A cinema in the central city of Ramat Hasharon last Friday morning to book an appointment with the Portuguese embassy to receive citizenship or renew Portuguese passports. Carrying the above photograph of the snaking queue, Times of Israel described how the line stretched from the entrance of the complex down to its underground parking structure after the Portuguese embassy announced that it would allow people to wait in person without advanced scheduling to secure appointments for citizenship or renewing Portuguese passports in December and January. The embassy announced last month that it would be holding a special Old Times Are Back event, temporarily bypassing its chronically overloaded online appointment system, says the paper. News of the opportunity spread quickly, drawing far more people than the venue could comfortably accommodate, with people waiting in line all day long. Many arrived before dawn in hopes of getting a slot, while others turned back after seeing the immense wait. There are reports that the embassy system crashed due to the pressure, but the official word is that no one was left unattended. Turkish public broadcaster TRT World was among a number of other media outlets that carried the same story. Portugal recently announced that, starting in May of 26, Portuguese passports will be extended from 5 to 10 years. However, those who lined up on Friday are still expecting to receive 5-year passports under the current rules. Times of Israel explained, referring to the surge of Israeli applicants for Portuguese citizenship began after Portugal passed its law of return in 2015, allowing the descendants of Portuguese Sephardic Jews who were affected by the 16th century Inquisition to apply for nationality. The paper also mentions the decision by the Portuguese government in 2023 to end the law of return policy on the basis that its purpose of repatriation has been fulfilled.
Yeah, these people that are coming there are not the Sephardim that were like banished during the Inquisition. These are not them. We have more of those people in Charleston. You know, like that's the problem. So if they're going to have to, I mean, I guess if you just have Portuguese Sephardic heritage, it's probably enough. I mean, I don't know.
They're trying to find a loophole within the law, obviously.
I just feel bad for Portugal. It's so beautiful there. Not for long. Not with these people.
Well, if there is some Sephardic that happen to be living in the West Bank or wherever, yeah, maybe they might have a shot. But these are mostly Ashkenazis.
Yeah, I don't know how they're thinking that's going to work. I don't know.
Bribery.
I don't know.
Dimitri, what else could it be?
I don't know what they're thinking either, man. Like I've said many times on my own program, whatever your ethnicity or religion may be, if what Israel is doing to the Palestinian people is something that offends you deeply and that you are quite prepared to speak out against, then you're welcome. You're welcome to my society wherever I may live. But if you support what Israel is doing to the Palestinian people, I don't want you anywhere near my society. I don't want you anywhere near my kids.
Yes.
I don't want you in my workplace. Like, get the hell out, man. So I guess the only thing I could say positive about all of this is that people who think in that way, even though they are a danger in our society, we're better able to manage that danger than the Palestinians are. The Palestinians are completely, helpless.
Oh, yes.
Almost entirely defenseless against this monster. So if this relieves pressure on the Palestinians, then, I suppose it's a good thing at the end of the day. They're much more vulnerable to people who think this way than we are here in the West.
That's true, but I'm going to NIMBY this shit because I'm leaving South Florida. There are way too many Israelis down here. I cannot be around these people. I just can't.
How do you see this ending? I don't.
He said, one state, come or go.
Yeah,
no, that's
but
not
there's going to be a lot of steps along the way that are going to be very, very painful for first and foremost Palestinian people, but also for Jewish Israeli society. One thing I've come to conclude about Israeli Jewish society is that they're relatively pampered, and they have a much lower pain threshold than Palestinians do, because they live in a relative to the other people in the region. They live a very affluent life. They haven't seen.
They have no pain threshold. They have none.
Virtually not.
There is no pain threshold. These are people that gleefully attack women and children. And the second they're confronted by somebody who is even of their own size, they cry like the bitches they are, just like Ben Shapiro does.
Say it again.
Ben Shapiro. Would you like me to say it one more time?
If you know what happened. We have a thing here.
Lil Ben Shapiro.
I haven't seen that thing before.
Out by a speed bag. I mean, what you know?
Yeah, if you
The question is, how did that
on this show we summon it?
How did that thing end up in your possession? That's what I want to know.
We have a longer version where the longer version is he actually sits there and he's like talking to the bag like he's trying to psych it out before. And then that's just the clip where he punches it and it hits him right back.
Oh man, that thing is gold. You gotta get myself a copy of that video.
Isn't it great? Our people love it. It never gets old. So it's funny, like everyone loves it.
Yeah, he is one odious human being, man. But you know, I think more and more Americans have come to understand that, fortunately.
Dimitri, if you'd like, I mean, we were going to cover this, just Jen and I. I have a clip, Jen, for just you and I afterwards then, if you want to talk about this, because, you know, the one thing we've been talking nonstop about what's going on globally throughout this conversation, but we really haven't talked much about what's happening here domestically. And so obviously you're aware of what Larry Ellison in particular, who is not just somebody who is purchasing all of our media, is at one time or another the richest or second richest person on the planet through Oracle. He is also somebody who is the single largest contributor to the IDF in the world. Now, that seems to be a fact that I think gets lost on a lot of people. However, the propaganda here at home is not anywhere near as effective as it once was. And I think with that being said, there is certain, what is it, Jen? Is it 5 levels of grief? Is that, or is it 6?
I don't know. I know there's 7 stages of collapse of empire, and we're at number 5. That's what I know. Continue.
So I think for a while they were convinced, the Zionists were convinced that all we have to do is just censor and buy out and all that, and that'll get people to follow our path. And that doesn't seem to be working. So the next order of business, as these Zionazis led by Ben Shapiro, I'll only say it once, and Bari Weiss, what they're believing is that, okay, so we can't censor and we can't indoctrinate the United States. What we're going to do is indoctrinate every single Jewish person we could get our hands on. And here is the conversation that happened, I believe, at the 92nd Y. This is another one of the NGOs that is very popular here in the United States of the pro-Israel cause.
And something important. You say these people, Nick Fuentes and Tate and Andrew Tate, they're speaking into the lives of young men in a way that normie conservatives are not. So now let's ask ourselves the question, as Jews and as Americans, what actually could Jewish ideas leadership say to young men and to young women? What can Jewish ideas actually do to renew, replenish, revitalize this society that we care so much about?
So, you know, I really think that biblical ideas, and here I say they're Jewish ideas, but they were extended through Christianity as well. But, you know, the sort of very Jewish idea that you have a role and a responsibility in the world, and you need to go do that in a muscular way, that actually Judaism values the idea that you're supposed to forge forth into the world and you have moral duties that you're supposed to do every single day. These are things that you're required to do every single day, and that you're a loser if you don't. Really, you're a loser and you're making your life worse. Okay, we shouldn't be shy about this. I think that we're all too shy about this sort of stuff with young men, particularly. We say, oh, well, you know, well, if you choose not to, that's one. If you choose, no. Your life will be worse, and you will be a loser if you don't do these things that are going to make your life better. And again, I speak to young men all the time, and the reality is, if they don't hear that message, then you're not speaking it proudly enough. And I think that's the mistake that, you know, frankly, people in the pro-Israel community make all the time, is sort of an apologetic approach to the way that they're pro-Israel, or people in the Jewish community speak about anti-Semitism. It's almost an apology for, you know, can't we just be tolerated? Saying, no, there's an actual value system. That value system actually coincides with traditional Americanism. And that gives you...
Okay. There's a lot of things. there's a lot to say here. The first, of course, is I can't tell where his yarmulke begins and his hair actually begins again. It's like it's blended into one. Maybe
I
that's
want to rub his mustache and beard off. I really feel like it just needs like a dry eraser.
Well, it's not really there in a muscular way, as Shapiro likes to talk about. But he gets himself punched out by speed bags, so I don't know how masculine he is. This whole idea of you have to be loud and proud about being Jewish and supporting Israel. What audience is he speaking to? Like, how narrow of a reach is this guy approaching now, Dimitri?
Well, first of all, his comments seem to imply that they weren't already being loud and proud. I mean, I don't know how the propagandists in the American Zionist community could be more aggressive than they have been for years. So that ain't going to work. And I refer people back to a poll that was done a couple of months ago by the Washington Post that found that 61% of American Jews believe that Israel is committing war crimes in Gaza, and 39% believe that Israel is committing genocide. So I don't think you can unsee those things. And I don't think that by loudly and aggressively asserting your allegiance to Israel and your love of what they claim are Jewish values, which I think is total nonsense. Those aren't Jewish values at all. That's going to, pull the wool over people's eyes at this stage. People can't unsee what they've seen. I think a lot of support has been permanently lost in the Jewish community and in the non-Jewish Zionist community in the United States, and there's no getting it back at this stage. One thing that I'm amazed at is how awful pro-Israel propaganda has become. It used to be really good. It was very clever, very deceptive, but now it's just become almost clownish. And Ben Shapiro, I think, is an excellent example of this. He recently did. I wouldn't be surprised at all if you've talked about it on your show, but he had this interaction with Megyn Kelly. They were on a stage with an auditorium packed with people, and he openly accused. He confronted her with an outright lie. It was easily demonstrable that it was a lie. And the lie was that Candace Owens had accused Charlie Kirk's wife of having been involved in the murder of her husband, right? And he said to Megyn Kelly, how can you not condemn Candace Owens for this thing that she said about Charlie Kirk's wife? Well, this is easily demonstrable that it was a lie. There was no evidence to back it up. And the very next day, Candace Owens did a program in which she carefully walked people through what she had said about all of this. And so it's the propaganda is amateurish now. It's completely ineffectual, and it's counterproductive. I think it's actually making Zionists in and outside the Jewish community look worse than no propaganda at all. So good luck on the, Mr. Shapiro. But just becoming louder and more aggressive is not going to save Israel's reputation at this stage.
Nope. I agree.
And that's also why this is a class war, nothing more, because a person like Ben Shapiro, who lives in Boca Raton, Florida, has a lot of money, a lot of power, a lot of influence. And he can live in his very Zionist, affluent enclave that is at the southern tip of Palm Beach County, Florida, and not really have to worry about very much. But for a lot of other people that are not so lucky, that are not affluent, yeah, it's going to be a very big problem for them. And who's to say that just because you are affluent and prominent that this is not going to become a problem? And therein lies the rub. The people, look, are there demented people that are out there that are mentally indoctrinated up to the highest level when it comes to the state of Israel that are not affluent? Yeah, there's probably some of them out there that are. But overall, this is very much a class war. There's a little bit more of this clip, and they have one more.
Oh, yeah, you've got him finish this. I can't look at him anymore.
Something to do. If you listen to Nick Fuentes, you are likely to be a loser. He is a loser. He is a basement-dwelling, ridiculous loser who spends his days ranting on the internet to a bunch of other basement dwellers. Don't be one of those people. You don't have to be that. You can actually go get a job. You can get married. You can have a girlfriend. You can actually make something of yourself in this world. And it was really funny. There's one point where actually Tucker made some sort of disparaging reference to Fuentes about this when he was doing an interview with another delightful person, Candace Owens. And in the middle of this interview, he sort of made a disparaging remark about Fuentes. And Fuentes went right back at him and said, you're insulting the basement dwellers, Tucker. Those are your people. Like you said they were your people, but actually you scorn them. Here's the thing. Nobody should scorn people who are unsuccessful in life when they don't know better. But it's our job to teach them to know better. Right? It is not good. If you listen to Nick Fuentes, there is no way your life gets markedly better. In fact, it gets markedly worse. If
anybody listens to you, their life gets infinitely worse. I listen to.
I don't find him to be that wrong about Nick Fuentes, but the difference is he's also like that. So I just find it interesting. It's sort of like, the pot calling the kettle black.
Well, the one thing that I will say, and Dimitri, I'm sure you've heard, Colin, please check your phone. I cannot emphasize. No, I'm sorry. I've been emphasizing this. This is important. When it comes to Nick Fuentes, it is understandable why people are following him. There is no rationale, none, as to why people listen to Ben Shapiro. Like, I don't understand it. And I listen to a lot of commentators. Like, I do not get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me say, I never even heard about Nick Fuentes until about 3 months ago.
Same.
I mean, maybe like I'd seen his name somewhere. I had no idea who he was. Absolutely no idea. And then as he became more and more critical of Israel and got a larger following, then I started paying attention. And based upon, it's not like I've watched a lot of Nick Fuentes, but I tried to educate myself about who this guy was because he was being talked about a lot in the alternative media. And based upon what I can see, the dude's an anti-Semite. Okay. Like I have very great difficulty not coming to that conclusion. Again, I'm no expert on Nick Fuentes, okay? But just based on what I've seen and heard. But at the same time, I will say that when that guy starts talking, when he's not spewing his hostility and hatred towards the Jewish people, but he's talking about Israel and people who support Israel, he's very persuasive. He's extremely persuasive. And I understand why in the current environment, a lot of people are gravitating to that guy. But I don't think this fairly describes people like Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson at all. Whatever political disagreements I may have with them, I don't think there's any validity to the claim that they're anti-Semitic. That is complete nonsense. And you notice in that clip you showed, he almost only talked about Nick Fuentes.
Yes.
Right? And he's playing the guilt by association game. He'll toss in the name of Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson, but really the discussions about Nick Fuentes, this is what the Zionists do. They take the most odious character they can find, the most odious prominent character they can find who's a critic of Israel, and they try to paint everybody in the anti-Zionist community as being that guy. And that's exactly what we just saw from Shapiro. But it's not working anymore. It's just not working. I don't think there are a lot of Republicans that are turning against who were formerly supporters of Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson who are going to turn against them because of this effort to, equate them with people like Nick Fuentes.
It was a total cope on his part. But what I think is much more concerning is Dan Senor is the other gentleman on this panel with Bari Weiss and Ben Shapiro. And this is the indoctrination side that they're looking to push now.
Jewish kids. That is actually how you get Jewish continuity. So then how do you raise Jewish kids? Again, people want all these solutions. The reality is formative experiences, putting kids in actual bubbles, in Jewish bubbles during their formative years, because when they're in those Jewish bubbles, that's when Judaism comes alive. And that's also, oh, by the way, while they're forming all their key relationships with their closest friends, who, despite what any of us think, will have much more influence on these kids than any of us will. All right.
I mean, how is that not pure cultish indoctrination? That's a cult. Am I wrong?
Oh no, that's exactly, it's a death cult to put a finer point on it. But yeah, these people behave like cultists. The people who are left in the pro-Israel community, most of whom I think, based upon my own interactions with these people, are not Jewish. They don't claim to be Jewish. A lot of them aren't even Christian evangelicals. I think that's the biggest source of support for Israel in the United States. But a lot of these people are just atheists. And frankly, they don't even particularly care about Jews or Israel. What they care about is the projection of American power into this region, which is strategically so important. And they see Israel as an instrument for projecting American power. So that's ultimately why they continue to support Israel. They're just evil people.
I think they're bigots. I think they're bigots.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And they don't like brown people. And they see, Israel, they see the Ashkenazis and that, that's our people. And the Palestinians are the other people. And I think that it's that simple. They don't like brown people.
Yep.
Who the kids spend their time with. So whether it is in a Jewish day school, and I think Jewish day school is like a no-brainer. Just 3 data points. There have been a series of studies. One, alumni of Jewish day schools are 2 times more likely than their peers to be very proud and very public about their Jewish identity. They're 4 times as likely to proudly identify and support the state of Israel. Okay? Today, some 5% of non-Orthodox Jewish kids in America are in Jewish day schools. That is a tragedy. And if there's one lesson we can take after these last 2 years, is there should now be a Jewish renaissance in Jewish education and Jewish camping, and just figure out that is like, and the challenge is that it's uninterested. Like when you tell people this, like the big philanthropists, they look at you like, because they only know of giving to the school that their kid went to, or the school they want their kid to go to.
We should have, like, the challenge to our community and people in this room should be, how can we collectively make Jewish day school the price of Catholic school?
Right. I remember actually after my 92nd
I could tell you, you'd have to get rid of the Jews and bring in Catholics. That's how you can do that. You won't be able to do that. The Jews are all about the prophet. That's just the way it is. And when I say the prophet, I'm not talking about like Muhammad, peace be upon him. I'm talking about with an F.
Just remember who said it. Just remember who said it. We didn't say it. She said it.
I said that. You said it should be the Catholic school model.
I am a product of everything you say. All of the resources that my parents had went to Jewish day schools and Jewish camps. We didn't go on vacation. Everything went to that. Everything.
Right.
Okay. And the idea, though, that it's the price that it is, given the amount of capital in our community, it makes my blood boil.
Yeah.
This is where all of the resources in our community should go without exception. This is.
Yes, to brainwash little Jewish children at day schools. That's what we should be spending all of our money on, Barry.
Yeah, and if they do that, who's going to buy all those weapons to mass murder Palestinian children, Barry?
I mean,
you got to leave a little bit of money on the side for the baby killers, don't you? I mean, this is delusional talk. Like this is just delusional. So,
but they're in an echo chamber. They're in an echo chamber.
They're cultists. Like because they're going to reduce the cost of Jewish school. They think that they can cause people to unsee what they've seen. These people they're delusional. They're delusional. The world has seen Israel for what it is. And this project cannot be saved by any amount of propaganda at this stage.
Nope.
It is kind of funny watching them spiral, though. They spiral a little bit more.
It's entertaining.
Judaism is a peoplehood and a civilization. We do not adhere to modern categories because we're more ancient than all of those categories. And so, but because we've done such a poor job.
Hinduism is more ancient than yours alone.
No, she's talking about whatever other category. But I love how she is. It's a religion, honey. It's a religion.
Yeah.
Of explaining what we are to people, to say, I have no problem with Judaism, amazing faith, incredible people. It's just Israel I have a problem with. We need to do a better job of explaining that our connection to Israel is a part of who we are as a peoplehood and a civilization.
So I would say that the first thing you need to do is inculcate this when your kids are like 3 or 4 years old. I'm dead serious. It's not a thing that you read. You don't become pro-America because you read a book when you were 14.
70, 80 years. I mean, come on, man. This
I know that's the thing. I was raised this way.
The children in the Jewish community for ages, ever since the founding of Israel, they've been doing this. They're just
I'm a product.
About the same.
I am a complete product of, and I didn't even go to Jewish day school, but I went to Jewish camp. I went to the JCC. I was in B'nai B'rith, all of it. And what they're talking about is exactly what already is. That's what other than not everybody goes to Jewish day school. I didn't need to go to Jewish day school. Got the message anyway.
This is like, this is a form of child abuse. That's what this is.
But is it any different? See, and here's where I come in as my atheist self. To me, I don't know that that's any different than any other religious indoctrination. I'm against all of it. And I do find all of it to be abusive. So I'm just saying, I don't know that I find any other indoctrination to be less so.
No argument.
You don't become pro-Jewish because you read a book when you were 14. You become pro-America because you went to a 4th of July parade with your parents and had a hot dog when you were 3 years old. Or in my case, because you watched 1776, the musical, on a loop when you were 5. And know all the lyrics, right? And the reason that you're pro-Jewish is because you went to shul with your parents from the time that you were a little kid, and you made Kiddush on Friday nights with your parents. And you traveled to Israel regularly with your parents, right? That's the reason you do this sort of stuff. People live through their experiences. I think we spend a lot of time, with the Life of the Mind, a place like Tikva. All of us on the stage are constantly engaging in the life of the mind. But the truth is that what Judaism really is a way of life. And that's Americanism too. It's a way of life. It's a way you navigate the world and act in the world. And you don't pick that up from reading a book. You pick that, you read the book, and then it strikes you as true that the thing that it's saying about the life that you live is real. But the way that you actually live in the world and the way you navigate the world is inculcated from the time you're very young. And so what I would say is that all of our job is to take our kids, our grandkids, and put them in the experiences that are going to make them more pro-America and more pro-Jewish. And if you do that over and over and over, then the books are just going to feel like a confirmation of that stuff when they finally come across those books and they're able to understand those books at 14, 15, 16 years old.
All right, I think we could be done with that. Yeah, I was going to say I cannot handle it anymore. I feel like, yeah.
The one thing I wanted to say, which I think is very important here, is you notice that Shapiro's a shrewd son of a bitch. Like, you can tell his moves and what he's trying to do here. And it's not just the association of Judaism with Zionism in the state of Israel. It's also Zionism is Americanism. He's trying to connect those pieces together. Now, again, I agree with both of you that it's not going to work, but it's interesting to see the angle that they're trying to play, is that if you don't accept Israel and Zionism, you're not an American. Well, that's going to fall on deaf ears.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much for being here. I feel like we've kept you already over an hour, and I don't want to keep you. I really appreciate, I wanted to meet you. I wanted to tell you I really appreciate what you do, and I think you're a total badass. And for anybody who's not following, because I know that you're like being stalked by Israel, I've been following like the spy that loves you, that apparently has been following you.
I don't think he loves me, but
but I'm having a little James Bond thing. Like, I'm thinking, like, so this guy loves you. He's obviously into you. He follows you on the road. So I really appreciate you. I think that you stand up and fight for the right things, and I appreciate that. And I thank you so much for coming on here and entertaining us.
Thank you very much. Those are your very kind words. I don't know that I deserve them, but I really appreciate the support. Thank you. And you guys keep up the good.
Yep, appreciate you fighting the good fight. And at some point, we hope to have you back. We'll have a panel discussion of some kind, and it is imperative that we continue to cross-pollinate, as Jen likes to say.
Even with our Canucky friends. Even with our Canucky friends.
Hey, you can make fun of them all you wanted.
I don't make fun of them.
At least Dimitri's at least you've lived in parts of the world that actually has healthcare. Something that us Americans don't know a damn thing about.
So, guys, watch Dimitri's show, Reason to Resist, on YouTube, and all of his stuff will be in our description. And thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Absolutely. Bye.
Bye. So that was a fun conversation. I'm sure.
Yes, this is what happens when you get together with smart people and talk about smart things. But you have to pay attention to the clock. It's not cool to keep people. Like, once we start getting into 8:56, 8:57, you need to start sort of like winding down.
Do you have to scold me every fucking time we're live?
It wasn't scolding. It's just pointing out that we're running late.
You could have texted me at like 10 of and said that it's coming up. So
I did text you. You didn't act accordingly. I did.
I'm going to check to see what you texted me less than 2 minutes ago.
That's all it takes.
Yeah. Well, we wrapped up, didn't we?
No, I texted you at 8:50.
First of all, you want to just let the whole fucking cat out of the bag. The wrong clip was dropped in the first place, and I needed to get the right one up there.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the clip is. It's okay. The clip doesn't really matter. And the problem is they're too long. Like, we get the gist of what they're saying.
Hold on. It wouldn't have been as long. I mean, again, initially it had struck me, but I didn't have my phone with me because it was charging. The first clip that had gone up was not the one that I was expecting. I expected the one that I had initially sent. It's over with now. It doesn't matter.
It's fine. It's okay. It just went long. I just felt bad. I didn't want to keep him.
Yeah, I like what Saul says. Are we getting a divorce because the dog is shaking? No, the dog is barking. The dog barks when they see this type of activity. You know,
What dog is barking? Which dog is barking?
it's a figure of speech.
Okay.
She just, you guys are terrible. Listen, some of you guys have obviously not had good relationships with women. That's pretty obvious. And I can understand that because dealing with women sometimes is very difficult. It's a fact. And that's not saying that men are a walk in the park.
Let me explain to you, okay, why it's difficult. Because your brain does not work at the same frequency. Okay. So I do appreciate that it would be difficult for you. And yes, I assure you that dealing with your kind is no walk in the park for us.
I'm not disagreeing. This is, but it is, it goes without saying that that's just part of the relationship that we have. And sometimes things are going to happen. Never mind.
Shit's gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, Shapiro is going to happen is basically what ended up happening. But I want to turn to a more, well, I don't even know if we necessarily could say it's positive, but I do think that watch your mouth and you can go. You don't have to tell me to ish up, you know.
How does somebody tell? I don't think that was telling you to, I don't think they're saying shut him up. I don't know. They're probably talking about both of us. No. Trust me, and I'm the one who gets it. Everyone loves you. I get that I'm rude, I interrupt, I'm the bitch. I get it. I've been the bad guy for a very long time. I'm very used to my role.
Please, Maudlin, spare me your.
I'm being true. That's just the way it is. When you say shit and call people out, you often are seen as the bad guy.
On a more positive note, we are seeing the movement around the globe that we have hoped to see.
Yes.
And even though it's not moving nearly as quickly as we would like in terms of actual systemic change, to me, if anybody embodies, you know, on the domestic side, if we have a spokesperson for the liberation of the Palestinian people, it's Miss Rachel. On the international side, it's Francesca Albanese.
Every march is important. Every strike is important because it's a moment of recollection for the people who stand against the brutality that is being unleashed against the Palestinians, out of which so many are profiting. And the same people and the same entities who are profiting from the slaughter of Palestinian children, mothers and fathers are the same who are ripping off students and workers, and Italians have understood it.
Viva la resistenza palestinese e viva il popolo palestinese che da 100 anni combatte a testa alta un nemico durissimo che è lo stesso nemico dei popoli occidentali.
This is the first time in history that people talk globally about colonialism, that they understand Israel's apartheid, they understand the economic and financial underpinning of the apartheid, that, you know what, are the same that are constraining freedoms in our own country, in Europe, in other parts of the West. There is a population in the West that is much poorer than it used to be. The younger generation, unlike my generation 20 years ago, doesn't see any opportunities, any future. They only see catastrophes after catastrophe. And this is why this is also the call of the youngest among us for stopping to exploit what we have not inherited.
She's awesome. I feel it, you know, what she's being subjected to is horrifying. You know, the sanctions against her personally affect her immensely. They affect her family. They affect her children. She's really going through it, and it's absurd that she's being punished for doing her job. Yeah.
She is a fighter. She is also somebody who understands that when you're out in the cold, you have to protect your neck and central chest cavity, because that's what is most vulnerable in very cold weather. I know some people are saying she's got a little too big of a wrap around her neck.
Don't care. Let me tell you something. All right. The Italians, the French, these people know how to style. They know how to dress. They accessorize. They know what they're doing.
They do. And bring this up because as much as it's difficult to look at what is still going on right now, hey,
he's bitching that we were bickering with each other. You know what? We're an acquired taste. And if you don't like us, well, why? This is the second time you're giving platform to shitty comment tonight.
Completely proving our point that if you think that this is about whether you like somebody, then honestly, buddy, let me assure you, change your profile picture, change your profile name. Because if you think that because we bicker back and forth every once in a while, that that's a reason to unsubscribe when our mission is to free Palestine, then what the fuck are you doing? Then what the fuck mission are you on?
Yeah.
This is the reason why we can't have nice things, as you like to say. Because if you can't understand why I collaborate with somebody like Candace Owens, it's not because I agree with everything.
You don't collaborate with Candace Owens. You cover Candace Owens.
Collab. At some point, I'll collab.
Oh, yeah.
It's because she's fighting for the issue of our time. And that doesn't mean that I agree with her on everything. I don't agree with Nick Fuentes on practically anything either. And the same is true. Although, there are a number of things that I agree with them on that are very important. Tucker Carlson as well. And because of that, you have to be able to put differences aside and figure out ways to come together. That is the essence of what we're trying to do here. That is the essence of our PAC, Revolutionary Change PAC. And here's another example of why this is so important.
Benefit from giving Israel billions of dollars while people can't pay rent, can't afford their groceries.
You do not get free health care.
I hate that it says taxes. And
you do not get free health care.
I don't like that.
But here in Israel, a sharp contrast. Universal coverage, strong results, and to boot, cheap.
We are done with AIPAC-funded candidates that put foreign interests ahead of the interests of working Americans. You can help us beat AIPAC at their own game. Please donate to Revolutionary Change now and help us fight fire with fire.
Also, I wanted to say something about that. First of all, it bothers me that our comms people use tax dollars. And I need to make that more clear in our next sort of discussion that bothers me. Also, I was watching an interview that Katie did with Butch Ware, and I love Butch. And he, of course, referenced, I forget who was it Fred Hampton, who said, you don't fight fire with fire, you fight fire with water. And I want to reference that because when it comes to things that are real, like freedom and liberties and fascism and stuff where people get hurt, I agree 1,000%. When it comes to corruption and a system that allows us to buy into our politics, it's kumbaya ain't going to work. So you fight fire with fire. And unfortunately, in this case, it takes money. And that's just where we are.
So click the QR code if you would be so inclined, especially if you were thinking about contributing to our channel. That's not where it is. It's like,
but okay, you're saying it's here?
Yeah, like that. I'm pretty sure.
Well, every time I've done it like that, you've told me I'm wrong. So I thought.
Guys, you see where that QR code is, wherever the hell it is above our head, just click it.
I think it's there, but you're telling me it's here.
Yes.
Okay.
So please consider contributing. It will be a.
See, I had it right.
Jen had it right. Okay. So there you go. Yeah. I think
here. Even though I see it over there, it's here.
So we're going to conclude the conversation this evening with something that is directly affecting us here in the state of Florida. And when we talk about runaway capitalism in its late stage and how it is ultimately going to fail, I mean, I believe that private equity is the single most detrimental aspect of our broken system. It's not a free market system anymore. Don't even dare call it that because we know that it's not that. However, when it comes to the most tyrannical super billionaires, of which Jeff Bezos is one of the very few, he is one of the 5 richest people on the planet. And he is somebody who is attempting to destroy the state of Florida environmentally, even worse than it already is. And so when people talk about, we'll just say climate change or global warming as it once was, here's what we can say is definitively true. Capitalism, if unchecked, will lead to the destruction of the planet through the devastation of its soil, its air, and its water. And as a result, in the state of Florida, Jeff Bezos, who was attempting to put his small phallus Blue Origin, weenie rocket up into space, they're trying to do it out of Cape Canaveral. And Jen, would you care to share exactly how this is going down and why this
Where's the article? That was the key thing, was the article that I had sent you to that explained what was going on, which is why I sent you the article.
Oh, I sent it to Colin.
Colin, do we have an article? Are you there?
In the meantime, these are the four. I've said that we need to have Larry Ellison.
He says he didn't get an article. So I forwarded it to you. I forwarded you an article about what is going on with Bezos in Florida. Basically, he's going to poison us, but none of us should be surprised by that.
You have to get into the habit of sending me messages directly through my text message and not just sending it to Instagram and expecting.
I did send it to your text. Yes, I did. Yeah, I did. But that's
all right,
okay.
Well, I will dig it out. Just give me a minute. But yes, with Larry Ellison being the last person, these are the richest men in the world. And I think it is safe to say that Jeff Bezos truly is Dr. Evil. Not hyperbolic. He is who he is. He is an evil person who is responsible for the disintegration of so much. I mean, listen.
Did you find it? Because I found it.
I just sent it to him.
Okay. So I did text it to you, yes?
Yes, it was hidden somewhere, but I was able.
Yes, I hid it that way, yes.
Yes, of course you did. It is all your fault. Always.
It's always my fault.
So I wasn't done here.
I'm sorry.
So anyway, he truly does embody Dr. Evil, just as Musk embodies Lord Farquaad. I don't know who this Syndrome is, but
I know because you don't see kids' movies. But Syndrome is from The Incredibles, and Aloysius O'Hare is from The Lorax. And that's like the guy who owns the air and makes sure that nobody could have trees to get their own air, and he sells them the air they breathe.
Yeah, well, again, this is just a tale of emasculated men. I still like the original graphic that you put together of them. It was actually pretty funny. But in this case, Blue Origin seeks permit for industrial wastewater plant in Brevard. Now, for those of you wondering, the congressional representative of Brevard County, Florida, is none other than Randy Fine.
We've addressed Randy, multiple times. He's a real piece of work.
So the fact that this has moved along as far as it has, there is no way that the behemoth that is Randy Fine, not so fine, would be in favor of this passing, because in the end, it doesn't matter. It's all about capital. And if a bunch of people have to get poisoned as a result, then so be it. Blue Origin is seeking a permit to discharge 15,000 gallons of industrial wastewater a day into a pond that flows to the Indian River Lagoon.
What could go wrong?
Nothing. It's only for the pores, right? It's only for, this is a very red part of Florida, and I mean an extremely red part of Florida. The wastewater comes from rocket component testing, cleaning, and cooling at its Merritt Island manufacturing site. Florida's Department of Environmental Protection has issued a draft permit and plans to approve it pending public comment.
Yeah, they will shut that shit down so fast. They are not going to have legitimate public comment. They won't. Because they're going to, this is going to get swept very quietly through. Like they're hoping that we're also distracted with Venezuela, Ukraine, Gaza, that we're not noticing this kind of shit going on.
Let's just say, Marvin, that when that happens, you're not going to want to be around it. Clear the air in more ways than one. Scroll down a little further, Colin, please. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection is preparing a draft permit to Blue Origin LLC to let Blue Origin operate a almost 500,000 gallon per day industrial wastewater treatment plant that would discharge 15,000. You know, the other thing you also have to remember is that it is a severe undercount. They say it's 15,000 gallons of wastewater. You bet your ass it's going to be a lot more than that.
Of course.
It won't be less, that's for sure. To a 402,981 square foot on-site stormwater pond, then to the Indian River Lagoon. And so my question here is this, and that is the proposed site, I guess you would say. Why is this necessary? How is this benefiting the American people?
I am so angry on so many levels about this because, you know, forget the fact that it's poisoning for the humans. We have manatees here. That's where they live. That's where they live. I don't think people understand the specialness of a manatee. I really don't. They're like unicorns. They're like unicorns. And it's like when you do stuff that endangers manatees, it's a level of enraging that I just can't even bring myself to explain to people.
Have you seen the super mega yacht that Bezos has? You think this guy gives one flipping fuck about this world?
No.
You just know that guy's walking around with a 2.5 incher between his legs. They make it so fucking obvious. They hate the world and everything in it. That's why he's got as fake of a bimbo wife as you could possibly find.
They are the precious blueberries of the sea. They are. Don't fuck with my manatees. Seriously.
He's also on the TRT. He's probably on the juice. Again, everything about him screams overcompensation. Everything.
Oh, he's a very small man.
Blue Origin's manufacturing site, in case you were wondering, is at 8082 Space Commerce Way in Merritt Island, just east of Pine Island Conservation Area. Blue Origin plans to use high-filtered water to test and clean rocket parts. Again, for what? For what? So that a bunch of rich celebrity bimbos can fly up into space for 5 minutes? That's
Rocket
what this
Barbie.
is about.
They were like rocket Barbies.
We were one with space, Jen.
But have you been?
Have you been to space?
Unless you've been, you can't comment.
Instead of sending the water to a sewer plant, which would probably cost more money, the company wants to discharge it to the lagoon after it's diluted in the on-site pond. So you mean to tell me that there actually is a way to do this without fucking with the environment, but they're choosing to fuck with the environment?
Yeah.
Oil and grease, pH, nitrogen, and phosphorus supply. Industrial wastewater includes water from manufacturing, commercial operations, cooling systems, and cleanup of chemical contaminated sites. If wastewater comes from an industrial process rather than toilets or sinks, it's called industrial wastewater, even if it's mostly water with mild contaminants. Again, it shouldn't be there in the first place. Among other things, conduct continuous monitoring and sampling and ensure it discharges don't harm wildlife, human health, or violate water quality standards. Follow a stormwater pollution prevention plan. Again, this is no different than the Dakota Access Pipeline. No matter how much they say they will do prevention, whatever is considered the most likely scenario in terms of environmental devastation, that's the minimum of what's going to happen.
Okay, so here's how we can have some public input in poisoning our water.
Your turn.
DEP has issued a draft permit and plans to approve it unless public comments lead to changes. So again, they're going to approve this unless something changes. So they're going to narrow that ability of us to create any sort of change in this. So anyone can submit comments or request a public meeting within 30 days of the public notice. Final permit issuance is expected by late December 2025. So that's within this month. So how are they going to really have public comments and address? So they're just expecting everybody to just submit their comments and they're going to get through that. And then we're to believe that they actually read those comments and took them into consideration. I don't think so. Why are they not having a public hearing on this? Right? Because they know that nobody wants this shit.
Yeah.
And like anything that Bezos is going to, and his company is going to submit in terms of what their remediation plan is, like we could believe that. I would believe that as much as I believe the Gaza peace plan. That's what I would believe about Jeff Bezos's submitted remediation plan.
This is just another example of, again, late-stage capitalism and the absolute destruction of our environment. So again, whether you believe in climate change or not, this is a form of climate change. I don't think so.
It didn't say so. It said anyone.
Yeah.
It said anyone. So
I mean, if you're a Florida resident, especially, I would think that would be in grounds enough.
But quite honestly, it's like this is one of many things that are going on all over the world, and specifically in this country. And with everything from him making rocket engines to all of these data centers or whatever it is that they're doing that is going to hurt the most of us and benefit the few of us. That's the problem. It's a capitalism problem. It is. If we didn't have a capitalism problem, this would never be allowed to happen. That could never happen.
Hence why the system is going to fail and it needs to change, but it needs to change as quickly as possible before people like Jeff Bezos completely render our water and air supply contaminated beyond repair. If you enjoyed our conversation this evening, which we hope you did, please consider going over to patreon.com/revolutionary change. Again, for as little as $5 a month, you could become a supporter of our small but mighty and growing channel. We do have a few more super chats to get to before we're out for the evening. Our trusty mod with the 2 Canadian A. Without Canada, the empire doesn't operate, as does...
No, that's the wingman. You got to have a wingman because Mexico's not really playing so much anymore. She's not having it with us.
Of Mexico, so ride like the wind. Piano Man with the super sticker, $10 once again. Thank you for contributing so generously this evening. We really appreciate it. To Willie Bragg with the $5. There is no such of a thing as a labor Zionist anymore.
Not
Anyone
really.
who was a labor Zionist discarded almost totally. They're now supporting Palestinians.
Yeah. That's true. Well, it's what you were saying. It's a class thing. And within the Jewish community, it is most definitely a class issue.
Subscribe to the Willie Bragg Show on YouTube. And finally, our good friend, one more time, Mr. Aguilar with the $1.99. Amen, Dimitri. We must condemn it. For good. Condemn Israel for good. Despite the bickering that Jen and I do back and forth, we do accept each other, even though we're kind of like two siblings or two dogs that just have to share space. Thankfully, we can share.
We're screwed. We're stuck together at this point.
Yeah. So
like,
don't
seriously,
think we're breaking up.
There's no. We are. Like we. I joke, but it's kind of true.
It is true.
I know.
Well,
we're now going to officially have a partnership. Like you and I have not had like a real partnership, like legally, really, but we're about to. It's kind of funny. I'm like sitting here and our lawyer, accountant person or our compliance person was asking me like about, well, what kind of thing? And I'm like, we don't even really need an agreement. We've actually been doing this without an agreement for like 7 years at this point. It's just kind of funny.
I also want to be very clear because I'm noticing a lot of things that are coming up. And yes, I caught that message in the chat regarding James Lee apparently being fired from Breaking Points. When you fly it close enough to the sun, you eventually find out who your backers are and who's going to be willing to step out of line. James Lee is one of them. Crystal does not appear to be one of them. Eventually, you get pushed up against the wall and you find out how far they're willing to go. Our friend Blakely and our friends over at Revolutionary Blackout Network. And by the way, I'm only going to be there for a half an hour tomorrow, just so you know, Jen.
I heard you. You have a hard stop at 3:30. I'll hang out and chat if I'm fine.
We are going to be on RBN with our good friend tomorrow, and I think it'll be a very.
Jay. I think it's.
Well,
Jay.
I think it'll be a fruitful conversation. But the point is, Jay and Blakely were bringing up the fact that Sam Cedar and Emma Vigeland are gatekeepers for the Democratic Party, hence why they will not under any circumstances criticize Zoran regarding his position with trying to make moves within the Democratic establishment, particularly his protection of Hakeem Jeffries, which in my opinion is not even necessary. He doesn't have to endorse him or even work against him. But the fact that he feels the need to protect him and say that he should be the Speaker of the House, you're not even in federal politics. You're in city politics. You're not even in state politics.
It's a bad look. It's just a bad look.
Bad look. Now, the idea that because you're a big channel and you get Zoran on and Mr. Cedar, who has been a guest on our show multiple times, doesn't talk to us anymore, though. You can't ask him about that? You don't think that that's necessary? In conversation, you can't bring that up? You can't bring up Hakeem Jeffries? We know Emma Vigeland isn't going to do it. Access is for people that are more concerned about their career than about people who are concerned about the mission. That's it. And so if that's your motivator, then so be it. That's not ours. And if we are fortunate enough to clear 100,000 subscribers and grow from there, it'll be because we did it the right way. That's the bottom line. I believe we got one more super chat, and then we really have to go.
We have to go.
Shaitadan with the $4.99. Climate change is so depressing. The right acts as if it's debunked, and the left gave up. Believe it or not, we're not that far away. I just think that the whole messaging on climate change is ridiculous in terms of how people talk about it. It's not a question of whether or not the globe is warming or whether the humans have any direct impact. Here's what I know for absolute certainty. What Jeff Bezos is attempting to do to the Indian Lagoon River, that's climate change, because that's poisoning the water supply. That's killing manatees. That's just killing people, period. That's climate change. And that's on purpose. That's man-made. For the purpose of what? He's not solving any world problems. He's an egomaniac that typically you find.
Micro penis energy, for sure.
Ultra-billionaire class with a weenie problem.
Oh. Yeah, that's some serious overcompensation. And I do look, the climate is in crisis. And yeah, they're sitting there and arguing which parts and who's responsible and all of that, right? So when your house is on fire, that's not the time to figure out what caused it, right? Like, you want to get to that after the fact? Sure, you can have like a whole postmortem on that. That's great. But when your house is on fire, you don't have to sit there and argue about who's responsible. You put out the fire, right? So that's the thing about climate crisis. It doesn't really matter how or who or why. It is happening. It is happening. Icebergs are melting. Ice caps are melting. Salt water is rising. It is happening. Like, you can't deny that. It's a fact. So those of us in low-lying, flood-prone areas are aware that it is happening. You can keep saying it's not, but it is.
Yeah, we got really lucky this year, but we won't get lucky most likely next year. We have to make wholesale changes. That's why we call it revolutionary change. It's not because, and remember, as I've said, revolution doesn't have to be violent. It probably will be violent.
Yes, it does. It does. And the reason it has to be violent isn't because of the revolutionary. It's because of the oppressor. The oppressor determines the level of violence in any given society. And I'd say, given that we now have National Guards being shot on the street, I'd say we've crossed over into violent territory. So our oppressor has decided that that will be the way this has to go.
Correct. Guys,
yeah, don't say it. It can't. I wish it could happen nonviolently. We tried that in 2015. That was the opportunity. That was the compromise. And now that ship sailed, and this is where we are.
As one of the 5 greatest commander-in-chiefs we ever had once said, and he's the last great one that we had, those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. JFK was on to something. And now we forge ahead. So we hope you'll continue to help us build out, continue to cross-collaborate with a lot of other like-minded individuals like Dimitri Lascaris.
Yeah, well, that's how the Americans say it, but he was saying the accent is on the first one, like Lascaris.
Lascaris. You know, but I did actually.
Like, I don't know. I know
it's all Greek to me.
What do we have coming up on Thursday? We have a lot of cool things coming up, guys.
Well, we do have our solstice coming up on Monday the 22nd. So
on Monday the 22nd will be a revolutionary solstice, and we will be having our annual airing of grievances with a lot of different people coming in and out. So it'll be really fun.
We will have a Christmas night live stream. Hopefully everybody will be finished with their eggnog at that point. But again, the tradition is Christmas Eve is when we do our
That's your tradition. I wish you would stop saying that everybody does different stuff. But
all right, Jen goes out to get Chinese, and I'm going to be. Well, I'm
fa la 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 la.
Don't
do it. Don't do it. What do we have on Thursday?
I don't have it in front of me. What do we have on Thursday?
I'm not sure. We might not have anything scheduled.
Well, that's up to Rachel to let us know if we.
I don't know what's going on. No, I don't. We don't have anything on the calendar, but we will. We always come up with something
let's
good.
Work on that, Rach. We will be on with RBN tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things that we ask you to do. We love you all. We appreciate you all. We will see you Thursday, and
free Palestine.
Good night, guys.